streets of evil. Tell me what you see. Fake smiling people, professional sanity. Tip a silver to Judas. Raise a cup and revel, a murder mayhem spree. Whisper to the devil, a blood-soaked fantasy. Tip a silver to Judas. To me that old song, power is but a revelation. Laugh, laugh like you like to do wrong. Drunk on hell's own revolution. Tip a silver to Judas. So tip a silver to Judas. You like to do wrong. Drunk on hell's own revolution. Tip a silver to Judas. So tip a silver to Judas. So I'll pick up that old mask to hide my eyes of rage. Mileage of lives past, freed up from its cage. Tip a silver to Judas. I walk these streets of evil, my righteous fantasy. All these fake smiling people scream when they see me. Tip a silver to Judas. I'll sing to you a brand new song. My pain is meant to be your salvation. My prize will be the cries of those who do wrong. My war will be an angel's revolution. Tip a silver to Judas. So tip a silver to Judas. To me that old song, power is but a revelation. Laugh, laugh like you like to do wrong. Drunk on hell's own revolution. Tip a silver to Judas, and I'll sing a new song. My pain will be your salvation. My prize will be the cries of those who do wrong. My war will be an angel
There we go. Good morning, Chad. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to some delicious, malicious morning nonsense, Chad. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We had a wonderful, fantastic Monday. The Monday demon wasn't too cruel to you, Chad. Hello, hello, hello. Good morning to you, Carlos Batista. Good morning, Aldine Bez. Chad. Hello to you, Carlos Batista. Welcome, welcome. Boar Legion says good morning as well. Hello to you, Boar Legion. Shadow Dancer says, good morning, LD and Chet. I think Hollywood can write evil. The problem is that they think it's good and sexy. Exactly. They could definitely write evil. They just don't think that it's evil. They think it's they think it's good. They think it's this is how characters should be. The up down down. So I think it's more that Hollywood understands and recognizes evil that they are trying to convince us it's good. Yeah, it's always about selfishness, either a fetish or trying to convince the world that they are great without with the like basically trying to convince the world that what they are is good and shouldn't be judged or shamed, and that the world must change to recognize that. Where have we heard that before? Where in the world have we heard that arc before? Let's see. Limp Bizkit says, good morning, LD. Hello to you, Limp Bizkit and chat. Don't forget to give the live stream a like while eating your coffee and drinking your breakfast. Absolutely. Very good idea. Hunter Bum says, morning, folks. I remember Heavy Metal magazine, and it would have some of the wildest fantasy stories out there. I like my fantasy when it has some edge to it, like adding spike. Yeah, because the thing is, everything needs a tiny little bit of edge. A little bit. Not enough where it becomes edgy, but there needs to be a little bit of balance here. Not just all saccharine kindness and kumbaya. Even if you're making like a family friendly, almost Disney esque series or story, even like Disney at its best, we'll say, old school Disney, Renaissance Disney was not Disney esque. It was sure it was soft and sanitized and a little bit sanitized, but mainly what it was family friendly. However, even at their most family friendly, they still had some edge to it. They still had some humanity in there. They still had Belle being annoying, being stuck up, and people kind of noticed that. It's why people kind of like, turned their nose up at her because she turned her nose up at them. To put it short, even the heroes had flaws. And even in the story, there are things that happen that are like they're not very sanitized, not very kosher, not very PC, you could say, which kind of will be cut out now. It's kind of, and I know this specifically because whenever they try to come out with a new version of whatever it is, like Aladdin or what have you, they always have to alter it for the modern audience, right? They always have to fix it. And then right now in Disney Plus, despite the fact that all these Disney movies are very family friendly, there's very like you could show these to your kids without a thought in the world, and it would be safe, right? Despite that, they still have they put up a lot of warnings now because old school Disney wasn't properly PC, right? So that's kind of what it is. We know that it's been softened, that everything has been softened, less human, because everything is less PC now. I mean, more PC, way more PC. It was less PC back then, right? Gaston had like a whole song number in a bar where everyone was drinking literal beer, not mugs of orange juice or something, or apple juice, literal beer. People could smoke, like they had Alice in Wonderland and Smoking Caterpillar. Like you can have people that smoke. Now he's probably going to smoke bubbles, right? Now if they made a modern day Alice in Wonderland, he would have to smoke bubbles or something, all soy and crap. Essentially, what they've done is old school Disney, as family friendly as it was, could have guns, right? They could have real guns. Modern day Disney has replaced those guns with water guns, metaphorically speaking. That's kind of been the big downgrade, and they think it's better. They're better off for it. So I think, yeah, there's edgy stories for sure, but I think every single story that is supposed to come from a human is to feel real, feel authentic, and feel less corporate sanitized, should have a level of edginess in there, a little bit. It's like the yin and the yang, right? The yin and yang sign. That right now they just want all. What was the other one? Yin. Is it the yin sign? It's a or color. No, the which color is it? It's a which is it? Yin is black, yang is white. Okay, so it's all white. It's all yang. They want all yang. Where they don't really, they want to cut out all the yin. That's kind of the main thing. They want to cut out all the yin. Ironically enough, yin is the black part and it's supposed to stand for women, while yang is the white part, stands for men usually. So oddly enough, they want to cut out all the black parts of their stories, all the cruelty, the anger, the emotion, the dark parts that we don't want to acknowledge, while keeping the white, by keeping the everything being kumbaya and family friendly. Everything has to be a joke. Everything can't be nothing can be really too sad or too depressing or anything of that, or too scary. Can't have anything too scary, too masculine. That's also scary. So we can't have that. Oddly enough, the yang is that yang is the man part, and they're trying to get rid of men. Strange, very strange. But I think that's kind of what's missing, is that they're cutting out all the edginess of every single work in fantasy, trying to make it more PC, more acceptable, less offensive. But as Jordan Peterson says, in order for people to think, you have to risk being offensive. Because if you cannot be offensive, then you're just shutting off about half of your brain. Half of reality has been dismissed from the discussion even before this discussion started. And Lee Wolf, get your coffee. Hello to you. The Crispin says Hollywood can write evil, but for some reason they want us to suppose to sympathize with them and let them get away with everything. Yeah, Jean Grey, exactly. That's kind of how they write female characters, because or minority characters, because these are the people that they want to protect. That are just like politically protected, and so they'll always be forgiven. There's always a good reason why they're doing what they're doing, despite how evil they actually are behaving, and how much delightful sadistic glee they have in their faces while doing it. Gunplay Knight says, good morning, LD and BestJet. Praise be to Space King. Absolutely. Abragioni says, good morning. Well, hello to you, Abragioni. Conagacho says, Molitev and Rumble Chat. Hollywood can't write because they are evil and must lie about everything. This is true. They don't like the world the way it is. They want to manipulate the world so that the world can change to what they want it to be. That's how it goes. And see chat. June Bug, May Hearts, hello to you. ASIC says, good morning, everyone. Hello to you, ASIC. Hello to you, Shadowtronic says, good morning. All putting fantasy in the heads of people who revel in mundane can't fathom the fantastic or a better world. Of course it's going to be bad. These are all like leftist types, and they're always miserable because they don't want, they have no condition of things being better. They just want things to be better. Right? That was their whole criteria. Be better. How? What are the standards of it being better? I don't know. Just be better. They want, because the thing is, they don't have a criteria logically or mentally. They have a criteria emotionally. Like once they are emotionally happy, once they can feel things becoming better emotionally, they'll be happy. But that's never really going to come, because in order to reach that emotional contentment, everything has to be perfect. And they think this is going to be, achieved under communism or something, because then the people in power, who are obviously going to be strong, powerful, enlightened, wise women, are going to set the world straight. Ironically said, because they're probably going to set the world gay, but they're going to force everyone to comply with communism, and everyone's going to be vibing, whatever else that entails. But that's kind of what the whole thing is. They have that whole entire assertion that if they could just force everyone to compliance, everything will be great. They'll finally achieve that emotional validation, that emotional feeling of greatness, of victory. Finally, we are better. We could stop trying to achieve better, and now we are better. But this is why they're never happy. That's why they're always angry, because realistically, they have no tangible goal at the end. You could say, well, okay, what does better? How do you define better? Well, we want, a right-wing person, a centrist, or just a regular person would be like, okay, here's my criteria of what we need to improve upon. I want this, and this, and this. And then if they're reasonable, it's like, okay, here's a plan. We put together a plan, and boom, got it done. Perfect. But they have no plan. It's always just do better, Senator. Just do better. I don't know exactly how to do better, but when you have achieved better, I will feel it, and then I'll give you that pat on the back. It's even their subjection says, woo, LD, hello to you, Mr. Self-Destruction, hello to Greg 90, good morning, you have a best chat. Sanitized fantasy sounds dystopian. It is, because it is. It's like everything smiles, and that's why, when you have like a society that never frowns or cries, it's just all smiles. It doesn't seem like a good society, does it? It feels very ominous, doesn't it? Because that's what it is. Everyone, or at least these people, think that if we could just have a society that never cries, never frowns, never has to feel the pain of sorrow or disappointment or anything like that, or ever has to suffer, right? No suffering, then it's a good society. But the thing is, without suffering and pain, along with the happiness and joy and the euphoria of mankind, we're not human. Because they kind of like worship at the idea of pleasure, but scoff at the idea of pain. And so this kind of, if you talk to like one of these people about God, for example, they'll say, well, God is either evil or doesn't exist. And like, why? What's your main reason why there has to be one of these two, that he's evil or doesn't exist? Because he allows suffering in the world. Well, suffering can be tragic, but suffering isn't exactly a 100% evil. It's not a 100% negative. People choose to suffer sometimes. Have you ever had a fast? That's suffering. But what happens at the end of the fast? Why do you fast if it's suffering? Well, sometimes it's, for religious reasons. But why? Well, sometimes it's because for health reasons. You suffer to become a better person. You suffer to become a healthier person as well. And there's a lot of science behind this, actually, where, if you reset yourself with a fast, your body can concentrate on ridding itself of its toxins, for one thing. You reset your stomach bacteria, because you'll drain out your body of its toxins, of its leftover food. Your body can actually focus on healing itself after a while, like after so long. If you fast lasts long enough, it'll focus on healing itself, becoming better, just tackling what might be ailing you, things like that. And then at the end, you can reset your stomach bacteria with some new healthy food. And what that means is because when you're eating a bunch of fast food, your stomach bacteria will become accustomed to that, which is why you crave fast food. Like all these really fat guys will start craving pizza and fried chicken. It's not because it's a natural impulse. It's because you train your stomach to crave these things. But if you fast and then you come back to healthy food, home cooked food, things like that, even vegetables, you'll start to crave this healthier food, and you won't crave fast food anymore. That's how it works. It's about your gut, your bacteria. That's why they sell probiotics, so you can help reset it. Probiotics are so good for you. Because your digestive system is a huge part of your body, and if you reset it right and treat it right, you're going to be in a lot better position. But ultimately speaking, it is suffering. You are hungry when you fast, but you suffer through the pain anyway. So the idea that pain is always 100% bad, that suffering is always 100% a negative, it's not true, because it isn't. And it's even part of the hero's journey. In fact, you have to go through trials. You have to go through pain. You have to go through suffering. You might even fail. You have to learn to deny yourself things that you want for the greater good. Like, that's the temptation test. A villain will encounter a temptation and go, oh, yes, I'd like that. A hero go, wait a minute, I can take this, but at what cost later on? That's how a hero thinks. They deny themselves, whether it be freedom or, heck, they could be blind. And then here comes the devil to give you your sight back, and you have to reject this as a hero, right? It's crazy. But yeah, it's just the whole thing about suffering and everything. It's like, okay, well, I don't want to suffer. There should be no suffering. Yeah, but how do you know that's 100% bad? It's not. Suffering is not 100% bad. Sometimes there's good reasons why suffering exists. So yeah, they have this whole black and white idea of everything must be smiles all the time, everything must be PC all the time, and everything must be happy all the time. Everything must be the hero will do nothing but make everyone's lives better, and the villain will always make everyone's lives pain. And pain is universally bad, and any good society will have zero pain in it. Right? That's the main thing, which is not true at all. And so that it goes into the stories. It goes right into the stories, and when they cut out these things, they cut out the darkness, the shadow, the negative parts of life, then ultimately their pieces, their stories begin to feel a lot less human. And it's instinctual. You don't even have to be an expert storytelling or anything. You could be an absolute normie who just works 9 to 5 every day and then sits down on the couch to watch a random movie. But there's something about these movies that this hits you on an instinctual level, like the uncanny valley. Like there's something about this thing you're seeing that looks right and feels right, but there's something wrong about it. You can sense something wrong about it. Like it looks like a person, it talks like a person, but it doesn't feel like a person. There's something off, and you can't pinpoint why. Same thing with these stories. There's something off about these stories. They might feel like old school Disney or Disney at its best, Disney Renaissance. There's always something a little bit off about these new woke Disney movies. They're not exactly human. They resemble art. They resemble things made by people, but they're missing something critical. They're missing something very important that really hits home that this is a piece made by a person. And oddly enough, this is the same thing that happened with the old school religious movies. You have these old school religious movies, and everyone is like uniformly good if they're religious, right? Or universally evil if they're atheists or something like that. That's kind of how it used to be. I remember these movies. So they don't allow people to be people. They want them to be caricatures, and this is kind of what we see today from modern Hollywood. We know this already. It's called wokeness. When we go into a movie saying, "Oh, of course the white man's the bad guy. Of course the woman is going to be the smartest, bestest ever. The black guy is going to be the wise savior type." All that stuff. We know these tropes going in because that's all they know how to do. We know these tropes going in because it's exactly what they piece together. It's all the same stuff. They hate white men, so they're always going to be evil. This is how it goes, unless they're gay. But it really kind of takes away the humanity and replaces that humanity with politics, with ideology, and the result of building a story on ideology is that you're not building it on humanity. There's a difference. I'm not really even sure if you can build a story on ideology and humanity. It's like one or the other. Either this is an ideological story that is pure ideology that's really biased to the point where people don't feel like people anymore, or it's human. I'm not really even sure you can do one or the other. You can have your views, your viewpoints in there, but you better write your characters like Alan Moore wrote Rorschach. Like even though Alan Moore disliked Rorschach, disliked the ideology he represented, he's complete opposite of Alan Moore, he still wrote Rorschach as a very interesting, compelling, and moral character given the circumstance. And to the point where he's infamously surprised people like him and look up to him. But that's just the nature of being a dedicated writer, to where you kind of put emphasis and value in the craft of writing. And Alan Moore, no matter what you might think of him, absolutely did. And you can tell if you ever listen to the man talk about writing. He might have been really pretentious, really, really pretentious, but he loved writing, and he put a lot of value in the art of writing, a lot of it. And no one's woke when it comes to something they actually care about, and that has yet to be proven wrong. Let's see here. I think it hits way too close to home when they justify their evil actions. Yeah, it is, and you're right. It's very dystopian because it's without humanity. It's the same thing, the same core nuggets of horror that we get in like zombie movies or from vampires. Something that comes in and steals away your humanity. And werewolves too, like something that's like just a core moment, a core wound, I guess, in the DNA of human history, that most of us universally fear the loss of our humanity. I mean, maybe not necessarily even our lives, but the loss of our humanity. Now, some of you weebs out there might see this in a very famous anime. Now, at least now it's very famous, called Mordeka Magica. Maybe not with Mordeka herself, or maybe not even with all of her friends, but there was one friend in particular that had this crisis, right? Where they're all like, "Oh man, we get to be magical girls. That's awesome!" And then one friend does it. One friend makes the wish and becomes a magical girl, and suddenly she learns that, oh, this thing around my neck is a crystal that contains my soul. So what the hell am I now? And she feels dirty. She feels filthy. She's like, I'm a monster. I can't. I'm not human. I'm not even human anymore. And to the point where she kind of like she had a crush on this boy, and she's like, I'm a monster. How can I be worthy of him now? If I'm a creature. I'm not even human anymore. That is pretty. She's still alive, but the thing is, with that particular character, the blue one, I think her name is Sayako or something like that. But with that character, she was still alive, but the apparent loss or sudden realization that she has lost her humanity pushed her so far that she decided never to actually pick up a crystal that preserved her life anymore. She chose to keep fighting until she inevitably became a witch and perished because she had already lost her humanity. So sometimes the idea of losing your humanity is so scary that it trumps life, right? Like what's the most common thing in a zombie movie or a zombie TV series? I've been bit. Please kill me before I turn, right? Because the idea of death is trumped by the fear of losing your humanity. And that's kind of what it is. It's the same like primal instinct, same primal aversion that we have to things that lack humanity. And when a story takes ideology over humanity, from the people who are knowledgeable on the topic to the normie coming home from his 9 to 5, just wanting to watch a movie on the couch, it's instinctual. They just know it by instinct. They'll come home, sit on the couch, and go, "Whoa, this movie sucks." They might even know why they think it sucks. They just know that it does. It's a Comic Whiz says, "Morning, everyone. I hope you had a pleasant weekend. Pretty good, pretty good." Book column. Good morning, good morning. Going to a fair, but I twisted my ankle last week. It's still healing. Well, that sucks. Hope it heals pretty quickly. Let's see. Let's see here. Let's see here. Connie Kitchens and Mullet in best chat. Anything sanitized only leaves the most dangerous of residue. Exactly. Exactly. So watch out. Watch out. You just art should be polished, but at the end it should be raw human expression. Ghost says ALD, Kingdom Hearts son or My Little Pony's daughter. I don't know. I guess Kingdom Hearts son. Schwazoom says, don't forget they removed the alcohol and cigars. Yes, they did. They had to remove the alcohol. That was like a big part of Pleasure Island, though. That was like a huge part. It wasn't like glorifying the use of cigars and alcohol, which, I mean, they shouldn't for kids. They should for adults, but not for kids. But it was like that was a big moment. It was like, yeah, you're falling into temptation, Pinocchio, and now you're going to pay for it by turning into a donkey. It's kind of what happens. It's like, little did you know that the island was run by Gordon Ramsay. That's Mr. Self-Destruction says they replaced the guns with trannies because they're packing. Yeah. Garlic is Yang, the one-armed lesbian. Yet also that, yeah. Junebug my heart says yin for women, yang for men. And I think yin are called the cold. Yes, it's called the cold energy. But again, it might be the less pleasant energy or the darker energy, but it's still necessary, right? It's still necessary, and the symbol is so great because within the yang side of it, there is a little bit of yin, and within a little bit of yin, there is a little bit of yang. So it's a really good symbol overall. And see your chat. Comic Wiz is old school Disney, Nickelodeon, Cartoon Network, and cartoon channels and publishers, an edge to them which made them timeless classics. To them, to not to mention authentic. Yeah, like Samurai Jack was really really cool because it had all this action and instead of blood we got oil, and you know it doesn't really make a difference. It doesn't really make a difference, not really, but it's cool. Right? I guess it does make a psychological difference, like on a very basic level, but it's still really, really cool. And see now, chat. Aluminum fences, praise be to LD, Betcha, and of course, Space King. They're doing electrical work at my job today, so I get an unintentional day off. Very nice, very nice. Fantastic. We'll take full advantage, aluminum fence. Let's see. Costco says ALD in chat. Which should be worse, Jurassic Park janitor or Umbrella Corporation janitor? Probably Umbrella Corporation, right? Because you're probably gonna die. At least in Jurassic Park, it's all about containing the dinosaurs. They might escape, but it really is all about containing the dinosaurs. And Umbrella Corporation is all about killing your employees, I think. That's kind of what their main mission seems to be. And see now, the Wolf says, yin yang is a balance of morality, hence the one falls into chaos. Yes, absolutely. Lady Fastlog, good morning, good morning. Morning, LD and Best Chat. Still grinding. What have to this fantasy tours done now? Well, check it out. Well, check out and see what they say. Yeah, you gotta do better, Senator. It's a PC. It's a Center for Political Correctness, but I think that's a pretty good suggestion to replace it with painfully coddled. Makes a lot more sense. Comic Wiz says old school liberals and other schools of thought understood objective truth and reality. Leftists and other liberal ideologies refuse to accept the two, so they seek to change it to suit their needs. It's kind of what happens when it's a whole generation raised on coddling, or they've been coddled to the point where they feel like they can just dismiss reality and just because they call it racist. Is it because there's a Doctor Who episode from the 12th Doctor in which they go to a planet where everyone has to smile to avoid getting killed and recycled by the robots whose purpose is to keep everyone happy. Yeah, it's like that. Like this. Okay, sure, everyone's smiling, but it's not real. It's not a real smile. It's just they're pretending to smile. No one's actually happy. They're pretending to be happy. Your friend says, let's have suffering builds character. Absolutely, absolutely. It does. And that's part of the hero's journey. A big part of the hero's journey is training. Training by itself is suffering. Right? Training is working out, tearing down your body so you can build it up again. That's what working out is. It's about facing challenges, it's about failing, it's about feeling inadequate and being inspired to do better. That's what it is. It's suffering, but it's suffering used to build yourself up. So the idea of suffering being 100% evil or 100% bad is just silly. It's the idea of someone who has never really experienced suffering and never really wants to, and has not appreciated the power and the end result of some suffering. Now, some suffering might just be tragic, but in the end, if you can push through it, you'll come out the other side stronger. And no matter what the case might be. Megathon says, pizza. Wait, let's see. Ventil 565 says, home cooked pizza. Absolutely. Up Down Down says, getting called out again. Didn't realize Literature Devil was going to be so mad. The joke says, I mostly eat vegetables and fruit, but I always crave pizza. Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, it's fine to eat pizza every once in a while, but it's like when, because I know some people have done this. I've heard some people do this. I used to go to seminars with my dad like a long time ago, and some people confess to this, that they will eat fast food every day for every meal. And not only is that expensive now, it's like almost unaffordable, but eating fast food every day for every meal trains your body to crave fast food. And so you don't really want vegetables or fruit or anything like that. You want fast food. You want specifically fast food. This is how it works. D. Middleman says, good morning, LD and chat. Have you seen that Random Film Talk did a review? Yes, I saw that, but it's like 3 hours long. By his reasoning, Adam killed Hitler, and the Trump stand-in is his right to resist heaven. I remember that. It's like make hell great again. Let's see. Was it Adam killed Hitler? I guess was that what he did? I don't remember that being the case, but I guess technically speaking, that is an assumption you could make. Tika Ultra says, good morning, Nerd Chat. Hello to you, Tika Ultra. Good morning, good morning. Zebra says, good morning, everyone. Hello to you. Action Punk says, good morning. Hope everyone is doing well. As always, suffering gives you the chance to take two options. Either you cheat, allowing to take the easy way out, or persevere, giving you the chance to reach peace. Yeah, you could totally take the easy route. That's kind of what the temptation test is. But when you do that, you don't learn. When you do that, you don't gain wisdom. You don't learn. You don't, and you sometimes even corrupt yourself. by doing that. But sometimes they don't care. So remember that trader from The Matrix where he's like, you know what? I want to betray my people, and you know what I want in exchange? To be back in the Matrix as someone important. Like he's becoming corrupt. He's leaning into the machine's fantasy, and he doesn't care. He just wants to be at peace. He wants to be comfortable. That's it. That's it. Sometimes some people don't mind a little corruption, and they can have pleasure or be comfortable, and that's something like that. As long as they get what they really want, and sometimes what they really want is a higher value to them than morality or justice or doing what's right. Let's see here, chat. Great 90 says there's a scene from a record of Ragnarok where the god of happiness tries to take the pain of every human village away for years and made them more miserable. Later, Buddha arrived with some happy people. Yeah, I think isn't the philosophy with the Buddha, with that Eastern religion, is like suffering is something that you must endure. Like it's important. It's not something to be feared. It's something that you must endure to become stronger. Something like that. Let's see. Vino Nisha says, "Good morning, LD. Who's got two thumbs and about to drop $1,000 to fix a trailer? This guy. But at least I don't have bad takes like your boy. I mean, man, I like the boy Zach. I've been interacting with him for a long time. At least I followed him a long time ago. He followed me back on this old account on Twitter, like back in 2016 or so. But I mean, recently it's become kind of crazy. Like, really, you get mad at people redrawing art to have the Batman fight criminals instead of ice? Come on, man. Great Ice is God of Happiness asked him how did he make them happy, and he said how could they be happy if they don't know suffering? Exactly. I think it's something like that. It was something like that. Then you need to know suffering so you can know what happiness is, which is probably why so many SJWs don't know what happiness actually is, why they're miserable all the time. Because they never had to actually suffer. They never actually had to go through anything. They've been coddled by their parents their whole lives. The biggest thing they had to go through was probably like deciding what kind of coffee they wanted at Starbucks, or their kind of suffering is I have to pay $20 for a burrito. Like that's their version of suffering. The thing is, the $20 for a burrito, there is no $20 burrito. That does not exist. The reason why they say it's $20 for a burrito is because they want it delivered. That's the kind of suffering they endure. Is that, oh man, this society sucks. You know why? Because I have to pay $20 for a burrito to be made, packed, and then delivered to my hands. That's too much, man. This capitalism has failed. So that's when they talk about the $20 burrito, that's what they mean. A burrito being made for them by people, put together, packaged, and then sent to them to their door. And they're complaining about that. That's the kind of suffering that they talk about. Alaba Man says there are ways you can deconstruct Green Lantern while keeping it relatively child friendly. Yeah, absolutely, without question. Carl Token Nerd says, "Sorry to be late. Was writing letters this morning, sending friends some of my bookmarks so they can go with my vampire novel. Very cool, Carl Token Nerd. Well done, well done." Alaba Man too says, "Yeah, but the thing about Pleasure Island is it still looks very fun place. Yeah, it is. It is. But the idea is something that you need to project because you'll just turn into a donkey. That's what will happen. Anyway, WoW has season start maintenance until 14 Eastern. Glad I have more nonsense. Welcome, Megathon. Welcome. Speaking of which, I do have a really interesting extra video today. I think you might like it. It is a psychological covering of a very interesting topic. Women's romantasy stories. Now, it's called The Secret Psychology of Women's Romance Fantasies. So I think you might enjoy that one. So we reach $100, 150, I guess, today. If we reach 150, if we get to 200 altogether, which we got to, I think, 50 yesterday? I have to check. If we get to 200 today, then we will watch the extra video, and it's a long one. I'm not even sure we'll be able to finish it, but we will watch it. At least a good chunk of it. Anyway, chat, here we go. ASICS is perfectly balanced at all, as all things should be. Absolutely. Dr. E, running the floor, says, "Good morning, LD, best chat. Sorry I'm late. I've just finished assisting a surgery that went wrong. Oh, man. Well, good thing you were there to fix it up, Dr. E, running the fourth. Well done. Well done indeed." Let's see, chat. Mr. Fat says, "Good morning, LD, best chat." And going by the little typo title, let's see. Yeah, I was in a hurry. This ruined the genre. Let's see. I suspect a discussion by famed snake cultist Alan Moore is on the docket today. It's possible. It's possible. I do like Alan Moore, of course. I like his works and everything. Yeah, he's not the perfect guy. I mean, who is? But he does care about writing. He certainly does. That is something to be acknowledged and considered, because if you've listened to him talk about writing and his philosophy and all that stuff, then he actually does highly respect the medium. However, sometimes he can be a little cringe. That's also the case. It's also the case. I mean, he's an artist and a writer. I mean, we can all be a little cringe. It's Shady Rags. Hello to you. Welcome, welcome. Suffering is relative. However, I lose a lot of sympathy for you if what you call suffering is something that can be easily prevented. The $20 burrito is suffering that anyone could do something about. Exactly. It's not even like it's a burrito, man. It's not even that hard. I made some burritos this morning. I made some burritos yesterday. It cost me maybe like $20 to make a gigantic amount, like a few days worth. I mean, just like not even skipping meals or anything. It's like just eating to my heart's content every single meal. I made a few days worth of burrito filling. I mean, rice, beans, turkey. I use turkey because the beef makes it feel like my heart is being deep fried in acid. So I use turkey for that reason usually. But it's really easy. It just cost me maybe $20 to get all the things I need for days worth of burritos. But they're like, "Oh yeah, well, you have not suffered. You have not suffered like I have suffered. All right, you might have been, look, Grandpa, you might have been crawling around the mud in Vietnam, waiting for your chance to just die by some booby trap or some offensive. But I have to pay $20 for a burrito to be made and delivered to me. Now that's suffering. We're that old trope. Remember that old style meme, first world problems? I mean, the $20 burrito, once you know what it's like, once you know what it actually consists of, is like the epitome of first world problems. It'd be one thing if like you go to the drive-through, right, and at Taco Bell, and the burrito, just a normal burrito is $20. Like, okay, maybe you have a point there, but the $20 burrito is ordering it online and having it delivered to you, and they're like, "Oh, I can't believe that under Trump, the burrito is $20." As Ricardo gets, I was not expecting Lit to have dropped Monica Magica lore. Yeah, it's a good series. I was suggested to watch it by a friend of mine, and I have to admit, I felt a little bit iffy about watching it since the beginning was like a bunch of color-coded little girls, and it felt weird. But the lore, the writing was absolutely surprising. It was like, wow, they really put a lot of work into planning this out, and it's really, really good. It's really, really good. It's about the humanity. It's about what do you be careful what you wish for, all that stuff. Yeah, 10 of those dollars is like the delivery fee. It's like $10 for the delivery. Basically, if you want to have something delivered to you, just add $10 onto it. That's kind of a safe way to see around how much you're going to be paying. All right, chat number 1516 says, "I'm suffering because I don't have enough dip for my chips. But if I open another jar, I won't have enough chips for my dip." I think Confucius had that problem. He who orders chips must have enough dip. A wise man does not open a new jar for his chips if he doesn't have enough chips for his new jar. It is the ultimate first world dilemma. Shooter Rex says the average fast food burrito costs about $10 without delivery or tips. If that's too much, go to the store or to Taco Bell. Home cooked burritos cost $25 depending on your ingredients. Yeah, it's so much cheaper, and you can make a large burrito, and it's going to be way healthier because it's not going to be using whatever swill they fry the stuff in. But it's pretty good. I recommend making your own. It's way cheaper, way healthier. All right, chat. K. Jor says, "Immortal elf woman born in literal paradise. You have not seen what I have seen." You have not seen what I have seen because I went ahead and went to battle, even though we were all battling for the last couple thousand years. But I've battled like at least 10% more than you. So you have not seen what I have seen. Ghost says, "Hey LD, got the Sinking City 2 yesterday. If you love Lovecraft, give it a look. It's pretty great so far." You know what? I think I have that game. Let's see. Yes. Oh wait, I have the original Sinking City. I have Sinking City remastered. I also have a game called The Mound, which is pretty awesome. It's about like your Spanish, you're like Spanish explorers, pillaging the natives of their treasures, but they happen to be like Cthulhu treasures. It's pretty cool. It's a very psychological, literally, because your characters go mad over time, and sometimes you can see your allies turn to zombies and like as an illusion to get you to attack them. Sometimes you might think you're picking up a weapon, but you're picking up like a stick. Sometimes you're seeing something great. It's like, oh, this is great treasure. And then boom, it explodes in your face because it was a trap. It's pretty fun and thrilling and challenging. Let's see here, chat. All right, here we go, chat. Here we go. Let's get down to business, shall we? All right, Sanitized Fantasy. Where does this go now? Let's see what they have to say. Sanitized Fantasy should be interesting because that's exactly what a lot of it is.
Witcher 3 for
Especially Rings of Power. That is a straight up sanitized for the modern audience.
a second time. I ended up 100% the game, getting the platinum trophy. I was doing this run over about 2.5 years of game time. I was just playing it in between other games since I beat it when it first came out already. But anyways, once I beat the game, I realized a few things about it. One is that they don't make games like this anymore, sadly. Two is still just as good as it was back then, man. And three, wow, there's a lot of racism in The Witcher 3. But that's actually kind of awesome. And before you cancel me and throw me in the gulag, let me explain. You see, I actually think what The Witcher 3 did with its world and how it conveys its racial problems is actually a key reason as to why we all love The Witcher games. Because a world where it's devoid of problematic elements feels oftentimes sanitized and boring and, dare I say, forgettable and not realistic. And I want to compare The Witcher to other games, if you don't mind, to see how modern media doesn't get this right nearly as often as they should. And this is also why so many stories these days kind of suck major cheeks, because they refuse to actually cement themselves into their own fantasy worlds because, well, they're too afraid to really offend anyone anymore. The Witcher 3 works because
I think was it Witcher 3. Okay, so he mentioned that there's a bunch of racism. That's key. Like one of the central pillars of how to make your fantasy world feel real, and what everyone should do is add in racism into your world. It'll always be a good thing to add into your fantasy world. A little bit of prejudice, a little bit of hostility. It always works. Even Lord of the Rings, it worked. In fact, Lord of the Rings, that's what made their union so great, because the elves and dwarves and humans all distrusted each other. So the idea that these, like, basically dwarven royalty, elven royalty, and human royalty kind of came together to accomplish one central mission was actually pretty fantastical. It had really never been done, at least not for a very, very long time. And so it was a huge accomplishment. And so, yeah, it's you kind of want, that's what we mean. Like, it's Lord of the Rings is really good with the good versus evil mentality. But even Lord of the Rings had a little bit of edge to it. Not a lot, but a little bit of edge to it. It had some darkness for sure. But it did have a little bit of edge enough where it kind of felt human. A little bit of that raw edge that we'll say that that raw part of humanity that they want to hide now. They want to pretend doesn't exist. That's it. That's a big part of it. And see, we're never going to get a game like Morrowind again. Yeah, we're not. at least until like someone is brave enough to make a game like Morrowind again, or Skyrim, and let you, like, be the racist Nords. Like we need one of those again.
Geralt is, well, a witcher, in case you don't know what that is. Witchers are monster slayers. The lore dump quick version is there's this event called the Conjunction of the Spheres, right? All the planets in the multiverse line up for some reason. It's never explained. It doesn't matter. And then on this one planet where our story takes place, all kinds of freaks start pouring into this planet uninvited. Werewolves, trolls, drowners, and even vampires. The things that suck the life force out of you. Sounds like the planet where my ex-wife came from. Huh? Come on, that was a good one. Anyways, the point is, because of all these monsters showing up, with the Witchers were then created to hunt these monsters down. And because Witchers are alchemy infused, well, freaks of nature, a lot of people in their world, they don't really see them as being human. Instead, Witchers are about as much as the monsters as the very things they're hunting. Because of this, all throughout the Witcher games and the books as well too, obviously, Geralt is constantly spat at by locals when he enters taverns or towns. He's called a mutant, a monster, and generally speaking, the people of the continent fear him as much as they need him too. And that's why Witchers have 3 swords, right? One for monsters, one for human beings, and then the one between their legs for the women of the world as well. And that is definitely a part of the Witcher too. But anyways, it makes for an interesting dynamic.
It's very much part of Geralt's Witcher.
And that's the point. And it's also what makes the story of The Witcher so interesting, because Geralt is by and large a monster among men. Whether he accepts that, that is what he is. He only lives to serve one purpose, ridding the world of monsters and playing Gwent. But you see, modern stories these days, take it Lord of the Rings, Amazon Prime show, The Rings of Power, or even games like Dragon Age The Veilguard, they have completely forgotten what their worlds are meant to be in the first place. In Dragon Age's case, BioWare originally made the Dragon Age IP because they worked on Baldur's Gate.
Okay, here's the thing. Remember that WoW video we watched the other day? The extra WoW video? Remember that? That's Sanitized Fantasy. I remember how it was like the beginning of the video, and I'm like already saying, oh man, this is some red flag dialogue. Because Sanitized Fantasy dialogue is meaningless. It's like empty. It's empty greeting card swill. It doesn't have any weight, because words with weight can be offensive. Words with weight have accusation, have meaning, have purpose. Instead of saying you caused this, you are the one who did this, I'm going to take my revenge upon you, right? Instead of having Maximus say, I am Maximus Decimus Meridius, husband to a murdered wife, father to a murdered child. I will have my revenge in this life or next. That's awesome, right? That's a really cool comeback. But when you can't have that. So instead of that, words like that, we have, we will stand together, you and I, Thrall. We must challenge the evil. It's very empty Saturday morning cartoon greeting card kind of crap. And that's kind of how I instantly knew that WoW video was this compromised. It was this compromise from the top down. This is platitude after platitude after platitude. This, hey, what should we do now that this army is marching our way? And his answer is not anything with weight or meaning. His answer is just, don't die. Oh, thanks. Thanks, great leader. That's it. Everything has to be quippy, because quips are just there to be funny or amusing. They don't actually have any meaning or weight. There's no okay, here's what I need you to do. I need you to collect the Praetorian Guard or something, and we got to start making a defense. He just said, don't die. Oh, thanks, great leader. It's so obvious, and some people might not even catch on to it because it sounds kind of good. It sounds epic, sounds good for a trailer or something. But it's ultimately meaningless. And that's what Sanitized Fantasy is. It's ultimately meaningless. There's no weight behind these words. There's no meaning. There's no substance. There's no guy going, I'm going to take my revenge on you. I am the father of a murdered daughter, this husband of a murdered wife, and I will have my... It's raw and human and full of aggression and anger. That's scary. That's scary to a modern-day fantasy writer. I didn't want that. It's Ghost says, hey, LD, speaking of look up, psyop, anime, Warcraft, it's short, but I think you'll like it. They will for Friday. Remember the extra WoW video? I lived at LD. I was there. It was pretty bad. And I had my hopes high because I watched that Jaina Proudmoore one. I watched the Ashara one. Those were really, really good, actually. So I was like, surely this will be good too. Oh, to my surprise, It was Disney Warcraft. It was Disney Warcraft. It was awful. Anyway, but that's kind of the feeling you get. The regular normal fantasy words have meaning. There's weight to them. There's accusation. That every sentence can cause an argument or a philosophical debate. But here in Sanitized Fantasy World, everything is meaningless, right? So it's all a disguise for a fake feeling or something, right? There is I saw this video on Twitter that said had this preacher guy saying men will never tell you how they feel, but they will always tell you how they what they think. And a woman will never tell you what she's thinking. She'll always tell you how she feels. And that's what modern day sanitized fantasy dialogue is like. It's feeling. There's no substance behind it. It's all about feeling, which is just soft and empty. And sure, sometimes that can really carry some weight, like in Princess Bride, where it's all about love and everlasting joy and all that stuff, and connection and fate and all that stuff. That works in romance. The emotional feeling can work in romance. But when you put the same idea of a sanitized fantasy dialogue where everything's quippy and meaningless and everything is there to sound good, not to be substantive, when you put that into like a battle scene or a commander's mouth or something like that, it just really takes everything away. It makes everything meaningless. Makes everything sanitized and Disney-esque.
But since they didn't own Baldur's Gate or Dungeons and Dragons as an IP, they then opted to make their own Baldur's Gate-like world that they would own. Hence, Dragon Age was born. Originally, Dragon Age Origins, which I still think is one of my favorite games of all time, works because it, like The Witcher, surrenders itself to the same tropes and belief systems that, in my opinion, makes a compelling story work. Well, compelling to witness. You see, in Dragon Age Origins, everybody hates everybody, okay? Humans don't like elves don't like humans, dwarves don't trust anybody. That's why they live in Orzammar, that's their capital, which is underground, by the way, and the Kunari are seen as an invading force that subjugates everybody else to believe in the Kun, which is their religious text, and they work to assimilate and just force everyone to follow them or you die. And amidst all of this, you have the mages, which are another class that can exist within the humans, the elves, or even the Kunari. Not the dwarves, though, because dwarves can't dream, and dreaming is actually key to connecting oneself to the immaterial world of the Fade. You see, the Fade is the outer world of magic, spirits, and demons. That's where magic comes from in Dragon Age. Every time a spell is cast, its power is being pulled from the Fade itself, but because magic and demons exist in the same world, there's a risk of pulling something pretty horrifying from that realm at any given moment when you cast a spell. That's why the humans of Thedas, that's the world the Dragon Age place takes place in, created an order called the Templars. And these guys are xenophobic knights whose sole purpose is to hunt down mages and magical-based threats to ensure they don't completely upend all of society. But the Templars are also a double-edged sword too, and that's why they're interesting. They're also racist towards a lot of groups, but they hate mages the most of all. They're also addicted to consuming lyrium, which is a substance found in dwarven caves. You see, lyrium, when consumed, sort of like tobacco, it gives Templar knights a high, this inhuman ability to resist the urges of magic and its properties. So kind of in a sense, Templars use lyrium to turn themselves into knights that can then tap into the natural.
And I think lyrium deteriorates or senses after a while. I think that's how it goes. Megathon says there's a reason I didn't recommend the Sylvanas Warbringer. Oh, did they ruin Sylvanas in her Warbringer? Unfortunately for Sylvanas, she is perfect for feminists to latch on to. She's the perfect one. Just tortured by men, masculinity, because it was Arthas who killed her and rose her back from the dead. All that stuff. So yeah, Sylvanas is uniquely perfect for all these feminists to latch onto and ruin a good franchise with. Anyway, Chad. Anyway, speaking of things, I forgot to put this up. So we're at $71 from yesterday. Now, if we can get to $200 today, like 71, starting off from 71. If we can do that and get another $129, we will unlock an extra video, Chat, an extra video. And a pretty long one, too. So if you want that, and also we'll reach Pillarman and be halfway to unlocking more Venture Brothers. Now, we have just finished, Chat, the ending of Venture Brothers Season 2, where if we unlock Another session of Venture Brothers. We're going into the next season, the third season. So, getting pretty close there. Getting pretty close.
Born powers that dwarves already have themselves. By severing your connection to the Fade, no longer being able to dream pretty much, the demons cannot inhabit your mind, which makes Templars a perfect tool in slaying demons or, capturing the mages. But obviously, too long of an exposure to lyrium causes the older Templars to weaken and become brittle. So once their duties are done, assuming they, live long enough, they become shells of themselves in the name of duty. So in Dragon Age's world, the elves are also probably the single most racially profiled group in all of Thedas. They're enslaved by humans all over the world, and the racial term used to dehumanize elves is to call them knife ears, obviously, because they have pointy ears. You see, this all works, and why I'm telling you this, because Dragon Age's world originally is a lot like The Witcher, or old school Dungeons and Dragons. It's a world that is built upon the principles that different races organically would not get along 100% of the time, and that's putting it lightly. Sure, there could be pockets of communities here and there where they can live amongst themselves, but largely speaking, most humans hate elves and dwarves, or they tolerate them at best for things like trade and materials, I guess. But because these worlds are built upon the fundamental aspects of, let's just call it what it is, racial tensions, that is what leads to these worlds being very interesting to live in and see what happens when you play in them. Because of that framework, it allows writers to then write stories that take this oftentimes racist worldview and turn them into compelling ideas for games. This is why, again, The Witcher is so good, because you're literally playing the walking embodiment of a monster slayer who's in a world that, despite them needing the Witchers, clearly, they still hate and despise them anyways. You see, the problem with today's media, however, is the reason why your modern fantasy stories tend to suck big fat balls is, well, pretty simple. Because modern fantasy is afraid of racism, and because
It's afraid of everything that's offensive. And unfortunately, they don't realize that in order to be able to think, they must risk being offensive.
because of that, everything sucks now. Again, The Rings of Power, an Amazon Prime show, Lord of the Rings, sucks because they treat things like in their world, such as the orcs, now as allegories for migration.
Yeah, now orcs have to be people, right? Now orcs they have to have children and families and crap. And they made the orcs the same way they made the sand people in Star Wars now. The sand people are now Native American Indians, and now the orcs are just poor refugees. This is the same stupid thing to Skrulls. Like suddenly all these evil bad guy races are now just poor refugees or misunderstood bad guys or just people trying to survive, and we mean old humans won't give them the chance.
Or immigrants, I guess, and why the show's writers think that that's actually a good thing to do. But that doesn't really work in the context of what Tolkien wrote The Lord of the Rings to be about in the first place. Orcs were always meant to be perverted, malformed versions of elves in Tolkien's world. They were specifically designed to not be relatable to the reader. They are monsters in every sense of the word. There are no redeemable qualities to being an orc. All they like to do is eat things and lives around them and burn civilizations down. They're the perfect servant race to a big bad like Sauron or Saruman as well, right? The games, for example, Shadow of War and Mordor, they perfectly convey this to a T. You see, in those games, based on Lord of the Rings, obviously, Talion, that's the main character, never fully trusts any of the orcs that he speaks to. You are instead encouraged by the game systems to use the orcs in there like their cannon fodder. With that game's Nemesis system, which is amazing by the way, you're able to brainwash orcs with the help of the One Ring and all that into help.
It is true. So that's those games are fun. I mean, they're not really connecting or really mesh well with the actual storyline of Lord of the Rings, but it's fun. And I don't even care about the story really. Not at all at least, especially in the second game. Didn't care about the story one bit. However, I did like going around and fighting a bunch of orcs, and I like the Nemesis system is awesome. Like some of the orcs can like grow up and like get more, gain more levels and abilities. And when you get high enough level and when you get skilled enough, it becomes really fun to challenge to help some of these orcs gain power and position, so they can get like more and more skills, and they become like a tougher fight. And because if you beat them at a really high level and becomes a really tough fight, you get more rewards. So it's really fun to get them into really high level tiers, and then you can fight them, and then they kill you. They get more power and more privilege and more prestige, and then you have gained a nemesis, and you're trying to get revenge on the guy, and it's really satisfying to go out there and hunt the guy who killed you and take him down. The nemesis system was awesome. I really liked it. Didn't care one bit for the story. I just wanted to fight orcs in this game. That's it. I mainly just wanted to fight orcs. It's awesome. Let's see. Lady Fazza says the Shadow of War was far more lore accurate than Rings of Power. I mean, yeah, if you want to compare it to Rings of Power, yeah, it's true.
You take out their commanders, and then you can destabilize their regions of power hierarchy, right? Or you can be defeated by the orcs as well, and then those orcs become stronger in the future, which makes them harder to finish off later. Again, the nemesis system in this game is amazing. Look, the point of Shadow of War and Mordor's world, however, is that they smartfully never present orcs in a redeemable light, because by definition they can't be redeemed.
Yeah, orcs are monsters in this game. They're never like redeemable, or some of them might be a little bit sympathetic because I think some of them are idiots. Like there's actually a trait they can get that makes them idiots or something. So they can be kind of goofy. They can be maybe a little bit sympathetic, but they're never portrayed in a positive light. They're always 100%, without a doubt, completely 100% evil.
It's like trying to put a muzzle on a shark or trying to domesticate hordes of mosquitoes. Some things are just evil and awful by nature. You can't reason with a mosquito any less than you can reason with a tornado or a disease in someone's body. Some things exist solely for one purpose only, which is to destroy and annoy everything around them. That's why the Lord of the Rings TV show sucks, because the writers are trying to humanize something that they can't, the orcs. They are going apparently to make an orc character even more prominent in season 3 of that show, and attempt to even make them a new series regular. God help me. It's all tiresome, right? Orcs are evil. That's all they are. It would be like if in The Witcher, the game tried to make you reason with a drowner, or say a water hag, or I don't know, a wyvern or something, right? And some things are just threats. They don't have higher brain functions. They're not equal to you. They're just threats that exist in a world that need to be eliminated or culled. But this is also why stuff like Dragon Age the Veilguard also sucks so royally bad too, right? Obviously, Veilguard is in the same world as Origins, unfortunately. But in Veilguard's case, the writers at BioWare went off the deep end and completely ruined the entire point of Dragon Age.
And see, Alex Halo, thanks to the $5 super chat. Thank you much, Alex Halo. Yeah, Alex says, but they patented them. Yeah, that's what sucks. It was such a great system. They patented it so no one else can do it, and they refuse to put it in any other game, though. It's dumb. I don't know why they don't. It was such a great system. What, out of malice? Like, what's going on here? But it was such a great system. Unfortunately, it's been tied up in legalities. But it was such a great, fun, fantastic system. It would do great in so many other games.
As a concept, because the people who worked on Veilguard are thinly veiled communists who believe in all the same things that are currently ruining modern game development in the West. You know the things. All white men are bad. There are infinity genders. No one is illegal on stolen land. Yada yada yada.
Yeah, that's a pretty accurate list. Yeah.
Anyways, Veilguard, if you unfortunately played it, completely undermines what Dragon Age Origins world set up in every sense of the word. In Veilguard, everyone suddenly, for no reason at all, just gets along. Humans, elves, even dwarves are seen as living happily together.
See, that is the Disney dream, right? That's kind of what we have kind of in the idealized America, but that's not what real life is actually like. Even if you have like a bunch of, that's what happens with Europe, like a bunch of white people in Europe, they're divided by nationality, right? They're like English versus the French. Like the English and French had a very long-standing rivalry. The Vikings pillaged the English countryside for a long time, and they had a rivalry. So there's a lot of vicious, bad blood between people who look a lot alike. You know, that's the idea. Like they're all white people, but they have very different cultures and mentalities. So even among it's people would say, oh, the same race, there's divisions. So the idea of like the Canari, who have a very, very alien culture to humanity, and then also the elves and dwarves are just going to just kumbaya get along, not going to work. Look, in the original Dragon Age Origins, that was made distinctively clear that they wouldn't be a melting pot scenario, because there is no melting pot scenario. Like the dwarvish culture is very alien to human culture, and the human culture is very alien to elven culture, especially because the humans have enslaved the elves. And then also the Canary culture is very alien to all the other ones. Insanely alien.
As if they all accept one another no matter what. It's uncharacteristic of Dragon Age's world to be shown this way. At least the Kunari are still evil, I guess. But human and elves would rarely, if ever, actually get along in that world. Most elves that are free and independent in Dragon Age, well, they tend to live in the woods, away from the human settlements, because elves, in case you don't know, they don't exactly have a home to exist in within Dragon Age's world anymore. Story time again. So you see, it's because the humans, when they migrated to Thedas, descended upon the elven capital of Arlathan. The elves were a once proud and magical-based society that didn't immediately repel the humans, but instead, stupidly, welcomed them in. Very quickly, however, the humans proved to be an oppressive force that looked to upend and destroy the elven people, eventually outbreeding them, outarming them, and then destroying Arlathan. Gee, sounds a bit like real life in some parts of the world, doesn't it? Of course, the humans did this because they too came into contact with magic themselves, which they kept away from the elves, of course. And this was gifted to them by an old dark god that whispered in the ears of mankind's leaders at the time. So, these humans, who were the most magically powerful among their race, would come together to be known as Magisters. These are the most powerful human mages of all. Anyways, the Magisters, alongside their human armies, ended up destroying the elves, okay? They used their magic against them. They enslaved the once proud elvish people into slavery for like the rest of time, pretty much. And then on the bones of Arlathan, the once proud elven capital, was born the empire that would become known as Tevinter. This would be the apex of human society and the bedrock of magical warfare going forward. So these same magisters would eventually get so power hungry.
See, Durex, even in America, where we have probably the most idealized coexist culture, we still have lots of groups that clash. Yeah, absolutely. So the idea of everyone is just kumbaya getting along is just nonsense. Some might, absolutely. It makes sense that Gimli and Legolas get along because they fought together for quite a while now. They've been through hell together. They had each other's backs. But the idea that his entire cultures would just like get along with each other, just like in America or something like that, not the case. Not the case. It's so much more realistic to have everyone dislike each other or distrust each other or just outright hate each other. It's so much more human, realistic, natural. But yeah, because even in America, we still have groups and factions that hate each other.
As humans do, and they would use their powers to open a gateway to the Maker, basically God himself in this world. But upon entering the Maker's realm,
and so far, the Dragon Age Origins is the best game out of the entire trilogy. I mean, I guess it's a quadrilogy now. I like Dragon Age 2 also, but it's not the same game. It's not the same style of game. It's not like a big, gigantic, sprawling adventure. It's more like an episodic series, like a TV show compared to the movie that is Dragon Age Origins. And then Inquisition was okay. It felt very modern, a little too modern for a Dragon Age game, but it was okay. I like kind of what the story was trying to do. And then we don't really acknowledge Veilguard as part of the series. That doesn't count. Dr. Azil says, "Hey LD, have you watched Erat's pilot?" No, I don't think I have.
the Magisters were punished for breaking the divine laws, as you do, and the Magisters would become cursed by the Maker, and this curse would trickle down into different parts of humanity itself. This event would create the Darkspawn. Yeah, those monstrous, orcish, zombie-like beings that you fight in Dragon Age Origins and, well, all the games pretty much, yeah. Those are all humanity's selfish need for power is what bore those freaks in the first place, right? Like, whoops, our bad, I guess. But ever since...
That was the origin. Like, humanity's hubris was such that they thought they could reach all the way up into heaven and meet the Maker. Or, essentially the Fade. They could have broken into the Fade with essentially a Tower of Babel. And that was punished. They went to the Silver City or the White City, and it was turned to the Black City at the center of the Fade, as the Maker abandoned them for their hubris, and then cursed them with the Darkspawn for the same hubris.
then, right, the racism and superiority of mankind pretty much doomed the world of Thetis for the rest of eternity. So as the Darkspawn hordes grew, living deep in the earth as they would work together to birth a being made of malformed flesh that was meant to resemble a dragon, but was nothing more but a symbol of humanity's failures. So these zombie dragon-like beings, I guess, would be inhabited by an old god's soul. Yes, spoilers. Oh my god, big twist. The very gods that gave mankind their ability to use magic to destroy the elves in the first place and, usher in Tevinter and all that, yeah, those guys, they became the archdemons, right? And thus they were born. And now every time an archdemon is created, that's what's on the cover of the Dragon Age Origins box art, right? That big red dragon, that's an archdemon. Anyway, they would lead an army of Darkspawn, and it would lead to the people of Thetis then creating their own order.
It's kind of funny that archdemons are dragons, and then there's also regular dragons.
Not too dissimilar from Witchers, actually. They're called Grey Wardens. So these were people from all walks of life who, upon ingesting the blood of Darkspawn, would have, well, two things happen to them. Number one, you'd either die very painfully, may I add, or you would survive the process. And if you survived, you would then have a connection to the archdemon's mind from anywhere else in the world. And by the way, all Darkspawn have this. That's why they all follow the archdemon. This means that Grey Wardens could then hunt down Darkspawn and the archdemon whenever a blight began, because obviously they knew where they were. Because if the blood of a Darkspawn wouldn't end a Grey Warden's life upon initiation, it also meant they could now safely slaughter any Darkspawn in close proximity. And if their blood fell in their mouth or in their eyes or stuff like that, they wouldn't get corrupted and die. They would just keep fighting. It's pretty badass. But anyways, upon fighting the archdemon, a Grey Warden would then sacrifice their soul to end an archdemon for good, only for the entire process to begin again ages later, right? That's basically the plot of what happens in Origins. But if Grey Wardens survive a blight, they tend to just wander the world aimlessly, constantly hearing the voices of the archdemon, or I guess the old god's influence, until eventually they become Darkspawn themselves as they go into the tunnels in the earth and stuff to live with all the other Darkspawn for the next blight to happen, or their fellow brethren end them in mercy. Yeah, that sounds interesting, doesn't it? Really cool, actually. Great lore.
Yeah, very cool. It's such a dark idea, the dark fate, and such a fitting occupation for this world. It's very interesting, very self-sacrificial. It's very similar to how the Silver-Eyed Witches work in Claymore. Very, very cool, and I really do enjoy Claymore, but how did they kind of rooted later on, I guess. Let's see.
There. Shame that Veilguard ruined all of that, though. Because you see, Veilguard takes place in, Tevinter, the very place where humanity enslaved the elves and all this nonsense began. You see, Tevinter also has another big thing they're also into over there, which is slavery. So you see, in the other Dragon Age games, it's constantly said and alluded that mages in Tevinter keep elves as slaves by their side. These elves are usually chained around the neck with a leash, and then they are brutalized.
Tevinter apparently is still around. I learned that from Inquisition specifically, and they're still very much the same. They didn't really learn their lesson.
Humanized by their human mage owners, it is what it is, and the mages will also cut their elven pets open to use their blood to enhance their own magic. It's pretty gnarly, which is why it's forbidden in most parts of the world, but Tevinter, being what it is, it's completely common to see. Wow, if you set a whole game into Tevinter, man, that would be interesting. It'd be ripe for the storytelling. You got slavery, you got racism, xenophobia of all kinds, all this lore and history crescendoing. Surely this would lead to an amazing game, right? Unfortunately, no, because Veilguard was written for a modern gaming audience like Rings of Power was. So naturally, all of these qualities I just explained are instead reduced to nothing. There's no slavery shown in Veilguard's Tevinter. There's no elves on leashes, and the elves that live in the woods are also very easy to find, actually, which is very uncharacteristic of them. You can just walk up to them and they're pretty welcoming too. Also, humans live with elves in the woods. That's kind of weird, even though that makes literally no sense given their history or backgrounds. But you see, Veilguard is the epitome of everything wrong with modern fantasy, or just storytelling in general these days. It takes a part of its world, which should be arguably the darkest to most oppressive part of its entire game's world, and reduces it to a Fisher-Price playhouse because the writers are too afraid to write anything problematic or racist, because they don't want to be canceled by games journalists or even their peers. So instead, everything is sanitized, blood magic barely mentioned, there's little to really no slaves at all, and everyone just gets along. Kumbaya. It makes literally no sense. It would be...
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right. I remember now. There's the whole controversy came from Veilguard, where they kind of cut out the option of doing blood magic, even though that as a warden, you can actually do blood magic. It's fine. They'll accept you because typically, if you do blood magic, you are sentenced to death. Like, there's no way you can survive. If the Templar, if you as a mage are found guilty of practicing blood magic, you die. That's usually the rule, unless you're a warden. Now, if you're a warden, you can practice blood magic. It's fine. That's the one exception. Although it's still pretty icky. Like, people still don't really like it very much, but they won't kill you. that's the thing. So what's interesting here is that they're in Tevinter, which is, the heart and soul of this whole Darkspawn dilemma, but they don't let you perform blood magic because the other games had this weird idea that you might, as a player, want, I don't know, agency. So they typically gave you the option of practicing blood magic. Now, in the first one, they really made it a big deal. Like, they really, really made it a big deal. It was very, very interesting. But I guess in Veilguard, they kind of just cut out that option altogether. They didn't let you do it at all because it's too much. I think they also made it to where you can't control your other characters. You only control your character to make it, I guess, to dumb it down a little bit, even further. That says some Dalish clans are friendly to humans, but I highly doubt they don't all live among them. Like, they might be friendly, but I'm pretty sure they wouldn't be too happy about a human living amongst them. Like, not normally, right? That's how it goes. So it's just but the other ones don't really like it very much because look what humans do to their brethren. Like, in fact, I think the Dalish elves and the city elves dislike each other too. I think I vaguely remember that being the case. The number says a Grey Warden using blood magic is less a matter of who would let you, but rather who would stop you. Yeah, exactly. I like Templar. Not really. Not really. You can't, like, the Templar can't really afford to go to war with the Wardens, right?
Like some Chinese writer writing a story and saying, and the people of China and Taiwan got along for the rest of time. Nobody ever hurt anyone again, and everybody loved each other for the rest of time. That's Veilguard, basically. It failed because, well, they ruined the world of Dragon Age because the people tasked with writing that game's story and world did everything in their power to just avoid what were the fundamentals of Dragon Age's world. And because of that, you end up with something that is only Dragon Age in name. Even your party members, they barely clash with each other. Any problem they end up having with one another is just brushed aside. No one in your squad tends to hate each other, despite them all being different races and walks of life, by the way. It's all sanitized and frankly stupid. It would be like playing a Witcher game where every town is just having a party constantly, and everybody's just propping Geralt up on a table and goes, we love Witchers. Look at them with their eyeballs they got from literal dead cats, by the way. And sure, their insides are cooked with alchemy and mutations, and they're kind of inhuman and they're monsters pretty much, but nah, we love them. Also, look, I'm a human they themer who's in a poly relationship with an elf and a dwarf. Also, I was raised by two dads. Wow, so inclusive. That's what The Witcher would be like if the Veilguard writers wrote Witcher. Geralt wouldn't even be fighting monsters. He'd instead just be a glorified hall monitor walking around the continent trying to cancel people for their intolerance. This is why I'm somewhat worried.
I bet if they had the people who wrote Veilguard write The Witcher, I'm pretty sure it would be about Geralt kind of occasionally fighting monsters, but it would be about how sometimes these monsters are very sympathetic or something like that. Like, you'll fight a werewolf and it's like, oh, but he's trying to protect his family, or he's trying to control himself, something like that. I think it's a thing in the Witcher already, but they'll emphasize it. They'll Flanderize it to no end until there's no way you can actually have an evil werewolf at all. They'll all be sympathetic in some way, and then also, he'll only fight monsters on the side, right? The main story would be about him fighting evil merchants, like evil capitalist merchants and corrupt nobles. That you'll fight more humans than you'll ever fight monsters. That would probably be how they would handle The Witcher.
About the future of Witcher when it comes to Witcher 4, because they got a lot of new hires on that game that come from games like Spider-Man 2 from Insomniac and the like. The very kind of writers and such that ruin the very franchises they left to work on Witcher or Cyberpunk and CD Projekt Red now. Now, I'm not going to say The Witcher 4 is going to suck or anything, only that I'm cautious. At least in the Witcher 4 trailer that they debuted the game with, the tone of that game's world seems mostly intact. Superstitious townsfolk, an ugly monster wanting its victim for food, a poor woman being being sacrificed, and a lone witcher in Ciri who has to protect the sacrifice from the creature, even though women can't be witchers. But Ciri has magical BS blood from the elder god thingy, whatever. It's whatever. And whatever. It sounds and looks like witcher.
And see, Alex Haley 5 says no LD. He would fight the humans for not letting monsters into town. Exactly. You're racist. These are monsters needing shelter. You're not letting them in. Yeah, it's kind of what it would be like, right?
Okay? I just hope they don't end up veil guarding it in any way going forward. But the reason why The Witcher 3 is timeless is because of the fact that it does not shy away from problematic concepts. Instead, it faces them head on and uses them to enhance the storytelling of the characters in the story, even in the Hearts of Stone expansion for The Witcher 3. That all begins because Geralt is contracted to hunt down a monstrous toad that ends up being a prince from a faraway land. But when he ends up doing that, he gets caught in a plot involving the Ilfiri people, and what do they do the moment they find out a Witcher is involved? Right, they don't like him. They plan to end his life in a public setting because that's the kind of world the Witcher is supposed to be. There's no justice. It's what lends that world its brutality, but in that brutality is something else, which is honesty, that the world is not a good place. I mean, how can it be? All these monsters falling into this one world, it would be complete and utter chaos. The Witcher, if anything, is a world that shows you what happens when migration of such a scale is honestly left unattended. I mean, in Novigrad within Velen, you could routinely find witch hunters just rooting out anybody from Novigrad streets that they consider non-human. Dwarves are even hunted in Novigrad, and they're like, displayed in front of the entrances of Novigrad as like cautionary tales, don't come here if you're not human. Not to mention the entire plot of The Witcher 3 is basically how a group of really powerful and evil elves want Ciri so they can use her powers for even more evil reasons. But that's why a world like that is so interesting. You see, ultimately, the reason why you love The Witcher, old school Dragon Age, or even stuff like The Lord of the Rings and more is very, very simple. You love it because it actually wasn't afraid to use...
It's these Storm Shadows says, Jesus, do these writers not understand how human behavior and psychology works? Either they don't or they do, but they find it offensive. They don't like it. They don't like reality. They find reality offensive. And so they rewrite reality in the game and their games that they make and the shows that they do to fit what they think should be how people work, should be how reality works. And that's what keeps it from being human.
Problematic elements to enhance their stories in ways that actually matter. You don't remember stories when they're sanitized or boring, but you sure remember stories that showed you things that made you go, oh my god, that is dark. Because that's what fantasy, or just good storytelling in general, tends to be like. There's nothing interesting about a story if there's no conflict. It's why I hate misunderstood villains, which is something everything is using too often these days. I want villains that are irredeemable monsters. I want stories where there is good in the world, but it needs to be protected. Instead, you're being given stories these days where the good in humanity is villainized and the monsters have become the protagonists. I cannot view an orc in Rings of Power as a sympathetic figure like Wei. Why? They're orcs. They eat people. They burn down villages. That is not who I am. I can, however, sympathize with a man who wanders from place to place helping people and being met with the skepticism and fear of those who judge him on, say, his outward appearances, like in The Witcher with Geralt. The problem with media today is they're too afraid to say anything important anymore, and what they think is important is nothing but cowardice that is wrapped in convenient saved-by-committee word salads that amount to reasonably nothing. A world's only as interesting as the threats that exist within it. That's why The Witcher as a world works so well, because everywhere you look, there's something evil lurking. There's a whole part of The Witcher 3's campaign involving these weird witches that have like body parts hanging off of them who have people's severed ears hanging on the tree branches so the witches can listen to the very folk they feed off in fear. Like there's an entire also subplot involving the Bloody Baron and his unnamed cursed child. Everybody knows that story, right? And it's complicated in emotion, but very interesting because again, it doesn't shy away from the problematic elements of the world.
See, Alex Haley 2 says, fear and kill demons. Yeah, that's fine. And they have this, but they find even that, the slaughter and slaying of evil demons who themselves say that they are evil demons with no redeemable qualities, offensive. They find that offensive. Shay Durags, hello to you, says, I fear that all these calls of traditional villains will have the pendulum swing the other way. The problem isn't that we have gray villains, is that we're oversaturated with them. And to the point where the villains are not allowed to be villains. They're people that oppose the protagonist, but and do evil things, but they really try hard to make sure that you think that they're redeemable or that fighting the wrong person and trying to kind of brush aside all the evil they have done and not acknowledge that they need to be punished for it. Media needs both gray villains and villains who just love being evil. It's kind of like the whole thing with the Last Wish, right? From Puss in Boots and Last Wish. You had both. You had Goldilocks and the Three Bears, who are antagonists more than villains, but they're kind of like more on the gray side because they're not evil. They just want the star so they can live a better life together. So they're kind of like they oppose Puss in Boots, but they only do so for a better life and because they love each other. They really want Goldie to be happy. Then you have Jack Horner, who is just completely irredeemably evil, and he loves being that way. One of the most entertaining things about Star Wars, especially the Star Wars prequel trilogy, is the Emperor. He's just so irredeemably evil, and he has so much fun as being completely irredeemable that it just becomes charming and becomes one of the highlights of the original prequel trilogy. Let's see. Mustafat says the orcs and the black elves, which I went, hey, you know what would make orcs and dark elves even nastier? Make them like the crust. Exactly.
There is not a single mission or moment in Dragon Age Veilguard that made me feel the way The Witcher 3 or The Witcher 2 even has several times over. There's no conflict in Veilguard besides white person bad. Literally every villain within like Veilguard is a white guy or sometimes a white woman. That's it. Not even kidding. Someone can try to debate me on that, but every mission is either a white man, woman, or monsters that are in service to a white man or woman pretty much, and that's all it is. It's so stupid and tiresome. And if you keep sanitizing and ruining your world because you're too afraid to offend people, you end up making something for no one that nobody will remember in the end anyways. That's why Veilguard flopped. It sold just over 1 million copies and got dumped on PlayStation Plus a mere few months.
And see, Mr. Fat says part of world building, my fantasy writing is distinction between the races. You've got imperial supremacist elves, hard Scrabble humans, and merry honor focused dwarves. Then we have the black races. Like, you mean like black elves? That's where the black elves comes from. Which I went, hey, you know what would make orcs and dark elves even nastier? Make them like the crossed. Fantastic. Well, yeah, that's what you kind of want to do. If your fantasy races can't just be, all they're just humans, but with a dwarvish paint job or elvish paint job. They have to be distinct culturally.
Release for
this is why I think about things like, how do dwarves eat? What kind of goods do they do? There's no way they survive only on trade. That's just insane. And if they can't survive in the mountains alone, that they would have to use the mountain as a city hub and then have like farms outside of it or something. It would have to be, but therefore they can't have a culture that is exclusive to the mountain. There would have to be guys that they would have out in the forests or something, chopping wood or farming or something. And it's kind of the questions you want to ask when you're, developing cultures and other races, things like that.
A reason. The Witcher 3, on the other hand, has sold over 65 million copies as a sequel in development, and that game is remembered as one of the best games ever made for a reason. You wonder why the Witcher Netflix show sucks so badly? Because it's what happens to The Witcher when it's written by writers who write like the Veilguard morons did. It's toothless, pointless, and forgettable. So the next time you play a game, you read a story, or watch a TV show or a movie, ask yourself this. What makes the story interesting? And 9 times out of 10, you're going to realize it's because the story that you're reading is slightly bigoted, borderline racist even, that it oftentimes leads to a far more interesting and realistic story than anything that magically tries to convince you that
to a modern fantasy writer, realism is just that everyone is jerks to each other and that that your heroes are terrible. That's kind of what realism means to a modern fantasy writer. But however, they're always irredeemable guys. Like the great hero, the chosen one, is a jerk. That's their idea of realism. The priest that runs the temple, he's a corrupt priest. That's what they mean by realism. Okay, the main character who should be a noble white knight, even in the face of all his corruption, he does morally gray actions, downright evil actions. That's what they mean by realism. What they don't read by realism is being rude. They'll definitely have the bishop like burn 100 children at the stake, but they don't want any racism. That's just rude. Can't have that. That's just crazy. Can't have that. They definitely can't have any of their main characters, the good guys, be pro capitalism. That's even worse. So some of the bad guys are probably going to be like these rich fat merchants or something as well, because you can't really have capitalism being portrayed as good. And if you do have like a good merchant on their side, either he's going to be like oh yes, I know what I do is evil, but I'm a necessary evil. Like he'll acknowledge that he's an evil capitalist, or his character arc will be learning that capitalism is evil, and he'll just give up his evil merchant ways by the end. Something like that or something. It's always like down to the ideology. The ideology is the absolute good in their minds, even if it doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
Such tolerance never existed in the first place. In the end, we need more stories like The Witcher 3 or Dragon Age Origins, and everything else that tries to avoid these conversations, for let's just call it social justice points, can just rot in the darkest pits of hell for all I care. I know this was a different video for me, but what do you think? Does problematic concepts like racism make a story better, or am I wrong? Let me know. Interested to see what you guys think. As always, thanks for watching. Subscribe if you'd like to. Maybe I'll do more things like this. I got even more games I could have.
It's pretty good stuff. See, Alex Halo. Alex Halo funding the entire stream today. It's the GOAT today. Otherwise, we've gone an hour and a half. No super chats other than Alex Halo. Thank you much, Alex Halo. Very much appreciated. The Index Anime Accelerator still wants to and tries to kill Toma, even after Accelerator tries to be good. I mean, you have to have your rivalries, right, in the in Shonen anime. There we go. Thank you much, Alex Halo. Very much appreciated. Very much appreciated. There we go. All right, 86. Alchemic 80s. Thank you for $20 super chat. Thank you very much to Alchemic 80s. Very generous. Let me give you one of these. It's Alchemic 80 says each race should have a trait that leans them towards a type of evil, like elves, patience becoming inaction, dwarves, work ethic becoming isolationism, human ingenuity becoming destruction, etc. Also, praise be to Space King, which, by the way, is going to come out later this month. Finally, the newest episode of Space King. All right, thank you very much, Alchemic 80s. But this is also true. See, the modern day writers, the sanitized fantasy writers, they'll give like a race like orcs. They'll give them like nothing but positive things because they see orcs as migrants or minorities or something. They're just kind of like in a bad place. And they have to do bad things because they serve a bad master because he's the only one there to give them the chance, right? But if they hate you, like, okay, the elves are just all stuck up and stupid and arrogant and stuff like that. Where really, if you want to be a good writer, if you want to go into this thing with an open mind, yeah, do exactly this. Elves are very arrogant, but that pride gives them a sense of duty to the point where they are very skilled at whatever they do, right? They're very on point with whatever tasks they want to accomplish. They practice. They study and discover things. So their obsession is hyper focused, polished, prideful, and they'll just do it to the absolute degree. This is why like all these elven smiths are so fantastic and so legendary. And they have dwarves who's have a very strong, hardy work ethic, right? And so that's kind of their whole thing. But to the point where they become so isolationist by the fact that no one else can really measure up to their terms, to their work ethic. And so, like, why do you need anyone else? Why respect anyone who can't set up to the work ethic? And human ingenuity is what gets a lot of humans killed, right? It's like, and also, some humans would be like, yeah, I'll burn down this city so I can have my knowledge, right? It's kind of like that. Sometimes it could be the case. Definitely, absolutely. Yeah. So anything in trait that a race can have, that even a person can have, can either lead you towards good, or it can be exaggerated so that it can be lean towards evil. It can be either or, really. It all depends on how you use that trait. Anyway, well, there we go, chat. There we go. So let's get down to business with the next one, chat. Hollywood can't really write evil. They just can't. It's they're the morality is very, very skewed. But we'll get there. We'll get there. Let me see. Which one is it? Which one is it? All right. Here we go. There's actually 2 videos on this topic. And both of them are kind of long. Let's do the shorter one first. I think this should be an interesting go through. There we go. Get this all prepared, all set, and boom. Hollywood doesn't believe in evil. They don't. It's kind of like you kind of remember what happened with the Fable remake game. We're like, oh yeah, we don't believe in good and evil, so we're going to take out one of the most iconic things about the series because we don't believe in good and evil anymore. We're correcting the wrongs of the anime, essentially.
Movies here because they're the loudest example and most people have seen them. But this didn't start in comics and it doesn't end there. It's happening at the creative level across film, television, and publishing. And you'll find it across genres that have nothing to do with capes. So stick around even if you don't care about any of these movies. They're the evidence, not the point. Hollywood has a villain problem, so let's talk about it. Modern superhero movies are embarrassed by evil. And I mean that in a specific way. Evil requires a moral framework where some things are wrong no matter what produced them. But modern writers' rooms seem to operate on the assumption that behavior is downstream of trauma and systemic oppression, and that every antagonist is really a victim with a grievance. So if you accept that...
Yeah, that is true. It's like, oh, you were abused as a kid, so all this murder you've done is excusable. And if you don't forgive this person, then you're a bigot and a horrible person. Because didn't you know this person was sad when they murdered all those people? Right? Some people, I can't believe, like one person made an excuse for Jean Grey, where they're like, "Oh yeah, well, that guy that she killed, that old man that she just had walk into the middle of the street and get hit with a car." Well, obviously he had it coming because she saw all of his life experience in his mind. So obviously she's like, "Oh yeah, this is a bad guy. He can die." Where's making that assumption? Because they want to excuse Jean Grey's the behavior in the movies so badly. They just assume this guy is evil because they have no compunctions. They have no issues just declaring a man to be evil because he's a man. Of course he can make the sacrifice. Of course he can be evil so that Jean Grey can be absolved.
That your hero has no argument left. And this is how you end up with a genre full of villains who are more coherent than the heroes fighting them. So I want to talk about how that happens and look at the inevitable conclusion of it. If evil is manufactured by circumstance, then the genre has to start making exceptions or no one is evil, and those exceptions point to the problem. Hi, I'm Mr. Phobos, and welcome to my video. Part 1, The Sympathizer Trap. Blockbusters have gotten into the habit of grounding their villains by handing them a real grievance. Corporate exploitation, state violence, colonial theft, environmental collapse. Not a terrible idea, really. A villain with a point is more frightening than one.
It's kind of why I've been enjoying The Mound, the game on Steam called The Mound. It's about you as a Spanish explorer going into the Americas and pillaging the natives of all of their treasures. The treasures happen to be cursed because it's like Cthulhu treasures, but it's pretty fun. Like, this is awesome. A game about being Spanish explorers pillaging the natives of treasures is pretty cool. And I've pillaged a lot of treasures.
Who just wants money. But the third act still needs a giant CGI skybeam. So the writers take the villain and hand them...
Yeah, there must always be a portal in the sky. That's like the one trope that must be in every movie. There's like one Hollywood executive that has a lot of power or something like that really, really likes the portal in the sky trope. They like it a lot. And so it's in every single movie.
A completely unhinged solution. Killmonger is right about the history and abandonment, yet his answer is a global race war. Gore is right that the gods are self-serving, indifferent, basically assholes, and his answer is killing every last one of them, plus most of everyone else. And Carly Morgenthau, Freckled Jesus, is right about the refugees and the GRC, but then she burns a building full of aid workers so the audience remembers she's the bad guy, while still showing her as sympathetic. The last one is a kicker. She has a better argument, so the writers make her murder civilians to level the field, And then they kill her off screen so Sam never actually has to win the argument. He gives a speech instead. Then comes the knock-on effect. Because the villain is the only one proposing any kind of change, the hero's whole job becomes stopping change. And once he wins, nobody goes back and fixes the thing that produces the villain in the first place. The problem stays exactly where it was, just without the guy blowing it up. Now, some say that's what makes these movies
You gotta do better, Senator.
secretly conservative. I'm not really attributing it to a secret agenda. It's not a conspiracy. It's a monoculture. Everybody in that room went to the same schools and absorbed the same ideas, that behavior is a symptom rather than a choice, and that you're judged by what you are rather than what you've done. To them, that's decency, not
By the way, that is exactly what George Carlin said. So George Carlin, the famous comedian, brought this up on, I think, a national television talk show. And there's some guys there in suits that go, that's dumb. There's no conspiracy. That's just ridiculous nonsense, George Carlin. And George Carlin made that exact point. Like, there doesn't have to be like a dedicated conspiracy. You all go to the same schools. You all go to the same Ivy League schools. You all go to the same clubs. You all hang out in the same areas, the same places. You all go to the same socialization events. You hang around the same circles. You're all just part of the same culture, the same circles. This doesn't need to be a dedicated conspiracy of a bunch of men sitting around around a table in a smoky room. The conspiracy is organic. They can't help but perpetuate it because they all hang around the same circles. They don't need to get together and make a plan. They just do the same thing by instinct because they're all the ruling class of Americans that think the same way. That's what ended up happening. Alex Halo this too says they stole the portal such Holy Grail in the sky from Fate. I would believe it, yeah. But it's like one guy in Hollywood or a couple of guys in Hollywood like, you know what? The portal in the sky is the greatest thing to ever happen to storytelling. We must have it in every single big budget movie.
politics, so nobody in that room is capable of noticing that those ideas kill the story, because noticing it would mean being the one bad person in a room full of good ones. That's the inevitability of a bubble, and every idiot in it is absolutely certain they're doing the right thing. So when a villain shows up holding a decent argument, the hero has nothing to answer with.
It's a Ragnar. Thanks for the $1 Rumble rant says DAO. Dragon Age Origins also failed to express why the lore hates blood mages. You just get a giant health bar and a cast from it. The blood mages cast from other people's health pools. Ally or enemy. Anyone bleeding is fuel. Yeah, that's kind of why they're so dangerous. They need blood to feel their magic, but it doesn't really matter whose blood. It is part of the lore. But yeah, there's not an extensive thing on it. It's just kind of like, we just know blood mages are bad. It's going to have as far as we get. Minnesota Vat 62 says, Ascent Lone Complex, LD, art imitates life. Yeah, more or less. Very good reference.
Except handcuffs. So who's still allowed to be evil? If you actually believed that evil is produced by circumstance, you would apply it to everybody. But they don't apply it to everybody. There is a short list of characters who still get to be evil with no explanation offered and no sympathy extended.
Very short list. Straight white man.
The tech billionaire,
Catholic Christian white man.
the defense contractor, the colonizer, the bigoted sheriff, the corporate middle manager, the abusive father, the preacher. I'm sure there are a few others as well as groups who would never be on that list. No writer alive is putting in a mom or a mullah, a union organizer.
The abusive dad is such a common trait that you don't even have to name it anymore. It's just like, I assume every main character in any movie or TV series today had an abusive dad. It just goes without saying. It's like, it's so common that you would think that everyone in America has had an abusive dad. And it's like, because the writers did, I guess, but their abusive dad is like abusive because he had standards for them or something. That's why I always assume that their dad was not really abusive. The dad was abusive because he said, hey, I need you to go get a job. you should work. You should come with me to work and help me out. Something like that.
An undocumented person or even an abusive mother on that list as a villain with no interior.
Because really, they probably had conservative parents. Like a lot of these artistic lefties have like rich conservative parents, and the conservative parents are probably like, "Hey, don't follow your art dreams. Okay, I don't need you to don't do art. I need you to get a job. You got to be a lawyer. You got to be a doctor." When really their son or daughter just wanted to be an artist, and draw porn on the internet. So they went ahead and followed their art dreams, and that put them at odds with their own parents. And so, of course, the dad is abusive because how dare the dad want what's best for them? We've seen this over and over and over in modern day movies and television shows. Or like for example, Mixtape is probably like the latest example, one of them anyway, where Mixtape had the dad just want what's best for his daughter. He's like, hey, I want you to stop hanging around with these literal criminals who are being a bad influence on you. I want you to have a good future. I want you to have a great prospects for a future job. And because of this, he was deemed the bad guy. And I don't think that's an isolated incident. I don't think for 1 minute that the whole idea behind some of these writers and their abusive dad is really just the dad had standards. The dad was like, hey, I don't want you to spend all your time doing art. You need to get a job. You need to go for a good degree that might help you out just in case something else fails. That's what it is. It was probably that. And there's a lot of evidence that it is that. Like, but they crank up the whole hostility towards the dad because, one, it's psychologically inevitable that they would have antagonism towards the father. It's literally in the hero's journey. But also because, the dad probably was like, hey, I don't want you to follow these dreams that you say you have. All right. You have to have a backup plan. You need to have additional skills just in case your art thing does not work out, or that you can utilize while you work on your art career or something like that. And say, Dad Christ, I didn't know LD say my DeviantArt page. Imagine if that's one thing he reads from me this morning. That'd be pretty funny.
Your life, and everyone in the room knows about it without being told. There's no flashback, and I don't see a sister. There's no scene where the hero admits the man has half a point. And Spider-Man Brand New Day is the cleanest example I've seen in years, because it runs both halves of this in a single movie. Jean Grey possesses innocent people and uses them as tools. She takes over MJ so Peter will believe his girlfriend remembers him. She takes over Bruce Banner and pulls the inhibitor off of him and points the Hulk at a skyscraper full of people. She's sadistic and gleeful about it too. But then the film reveals that Damage Control was the real villain the whole time, and that her sister was taken and experimented on by them and ultimately killed. That reveal works as a washing machine. Everything she did before is no longer her responsibility. It's not her fault. But look at what Metzger is made of. He has no sister and no real losses. He's made out of oratory and ideological positions, and his creed is simple. Mutants are here to replace you, so it's fine to hate them. And once you decide they aren't people, you can use them however you like. They're just resources to be weaponized. That's the whole man. So the movie is running two theories of behavior at once and hopes we don't notice. One character's atrocities come out of what was done to her, and the others come out of what he believes. And only one of those gets a hearing. Hell, one of them gets a complete pass. That's the sorting rule. It's hard not to see it everywhere once you see it at all. The trauma frame doesn't get applied to people. It gets applied to people the writers have already decided are good, or perhaps popular and slated to be in another movie. And let's be honest here, sometimes it gets applied to groups.
It's kind of parallel to how Mary Sue's are made. So one of the Mary Sue were very common Mary Sue trait is character relative morality. So essentially, it's not the morality of the story is not based on principle or belief or anything like that. It's based on whether or not you kind of like the Mary Sue. So first of all, the Mary Sue can do no wrong. So if the bad guy is doing X and then the Mary Sue does X, it's okay when the Mary Sue does it because of whatever reasons. But when the bad guy does it, it's completely irredeemable and can never be done again. It can never be tolerated. So, for example, you could, I don't know, just off the top of my head, what if you had like a world where the bad guy is a necromancer, and then at one point, they always for like 2 seasons they're like, oh, this necromancer is evil, He's really cruel because he raises the dead, and that's how you know he's evil. And then the Mary Sue raised the dead, but for other reasons, like for their own reasons, because I don't know, they think it's cool or they want to, and because the writer thinks it'd be cool to have the Mary Sue have raise the dead powers. It's fine. Suddenly, it's okay. It's an okay version of raising the dead. I don't mean resurrection. It's like it's still raising the dead, but it's okay when the Mary Sue does it because of reasons. That's like option one. That's like definition one of character relative morality. Where if the Mary Sue does it, it's okay, despite the fact that it's been demonized because the villain does it. Only when the villain does it is it wrong. And then, but definition two is if a character is opposed to the Mary Sue, well, they're probably going to be evil. There's no chance in hell that this person is going to be secretly right and the Mary Sue is going to learn a lesson about being arrogant or something. And also, if the character likes the Mary Sue, then they're a good person, and that even goes for allies and good and bad guys. So if there's an ally on the Mary Sue side, and that ally does not like the Mary Sue, is very antagonistic towards the Mary Sue, if they don't learn to love the Mary Sue, if their character arc is not about learning to love this main character, then they will become evil or a traitor because they do not like the Mary Sue. It's kind of like their justification, like, oh, if they don't like my main character, so of course they're going to be evil. And on the flip side, if you have like, a dark Jedi named Kylo Ren, and Kylo Ren is a completely evil bastard whom slaughtered all of his classmates, ran away to the evil empire, supported a genocidal maniac, helped lead the genocide and destruction of the Republic, and then also just killed his own father out of sheer spite, as an example. And then and because he starts to like the main character, I don't know, let's call her Rey. The main character happens to be a god level Mary Sue. It's completely 100% of Mary Sue without any redeeming qualities whatsoever or personality. And then he starts to like her. And then they start to kind of will they, won't they kind of fall in love. This means that he's going to be redeemed. It doesn't matter what he's done in the past. His redeeming quality is that he likes the Mary Sue. So boom, hypothetically speaking, it'd be crazy if like a big budget company did that storyline, because that would be completely cringe and very unprofessional. It'd be very low tier level writing. But hypothetically speaking, this is how this scenario usually plays out. It doesn't matter how evil the bad guy was, as long as he likes the Mary Sue, there's always a chance of redemption. Not because he becomes a better person, but because he likes the Mary Sue. That's about it. Anyway.
If you think I'm reading too much into it, the producers have been fairly open about the design. Amy Pascal has said the pitch was a movie about how isolated people feel now, and how reaching out and making connection is the most important thing a person can do, and that the director wanted the villain to be a teenager instead of a monster. The emphasis was on emotional connection, and moral weight was never really on the list. But what we got was a teenager who was a monster. Either they didn't see the monster part, or they did see it and decided it wasn't deserving of accountability.
It's probably the second one, which makes it way worse.
The studios know the sympathizer trap cost them, and they've got 2 repairs for it, each one both worse than the original problem. The first repair is the hand wave. Your villain does something monstrous and then gets forgiven because of reasons. It might be backstory, or because they say the words, "There's a better way," or "I'm sorry," somewhere near the end. Wanda held 3,000 people in mind control for weeks, and she walked out of it with a sad string section. She never really answers for it. We're talking zero accountability here, not even remorse. The fan base never got to see a reckoning, but they've been trained to talk about her grief instead of her victims. And we know it can be done the other way because the same studio did it. Kilgrave does the same thing to a handful of people, and Jessica Jones calls him unambiguously evil. And that show gives...
Well, yeah, because he's a man. He sort of happens to be, a mind controller, I think. He's evil because he's a man, not because of what he did.
Him a trauma card, too. His parents experimented on him when he was a sick child, which is the same engine the Spider-Man movie runs for Jean's sister. Jessica Jones puts it right on screen and then refuses to let it buy him anything. Same crime as Wanda, same childhood as Jean, but the opposite verdict. And Jean is the more interesting case because she actually is remorseful. But guilt is free. Anybody can feel bad. Redemption is about taking responsibility, and we never once see her held to account for any.
And there it is. There's a reason why I want to watch this video, because guilt is cheap and free. All right, this is an episode of Futurama where like the what's his name? Not the nephew, the clone of Hubert Farnsworth and the son of Hermes. They start like a business, and they get into a tussle with this bully who's like a slime monster. And so they go and get Hermes and Farnsworth take their sons and then go to the monster's house and have them apologize for their tussle, which resulted in the broken window. And then this Hermes' son is like, "Oh, do we pay for the window? Right? We pay for the window, right?" And then Hermes like, "Oh gosh, no. We apologize with nice cheap words." That's what it's like with guilt and Hollywood. Remember the whole video about I take accountability, that cringy video that all these celebrities put together? I take accountability. Okay, how? It's easy and cheap to say I take accountability, but they never ever do anything about it, right? They just kind of like just feel guilty, and guilt. I think to them, feeling guilty alone is enough to say they have taken accountability. Like, I've taken accountability. Okay, how? Because I feel guilty for what did you do? Why didn't I myself didn't really do anything? It's more like because my country or my race did something wrong. The race, of course, being white people. That's kind of how it's done. Like they're more than willing and more than happy to apologize and grovel and subjugate themselves on the altar of someone else's sins, because they can at once not be actually held accountable for anything because they didn't do anything, and also gain a bunch of points by being a self-flagellating person, apologizing on behalf of other people so they can get social media points and look like good people. Okay, you didn't do anything, but you didn't do anything. Yet you're apologizing because I feel connected. I feel sorry for my own people, for my race or my country. I'm so sorry. And because guilt is cheap. Guilt is free. Words are cheap. Words are free. What exactly of all the times that Hollywood celebrities or anyone has said anything along the lines of I take accountability? What accountability? What responsibility have they actually taken? Are they and I don't mean like, oh yeah, they donated like $1 million. Did that really hurt them? Does donating $1 million really hurt these ultra millionaires? How about doing something that hurts? How about doing something that's really a sacrifice? Okay. How about I don't know, working in a dangerous area? How about giving away so much money that you are in dire straits now? That you feel it. How about that? How about do a movie for free? Absolutely for free. Like just do an entire movie for free. That would be taking accountability, because that would suck. If you've seen how hard it is to make a movie behind the scenes, doing that all for free would really suck. So, but that would be a sacrifice. That would be actually taking responsibility. 1 second here, chat. Let's get this over here. This as a little reminder of what we're dealing with, right? What we're dealing with. Alex Haley looks a $5 super chat. Thank you very much. As Accelerator, don't forgive me or call me a hero. Almost everyone in the show calls him a hero still. Because he might not see himself as a hero, but if he does good things, he tries to do a good thing, he might not be up to his own standards. But sometimes people will feel as if he is worthy of the title of hero. It's a Shady Durag says, watch the movie Fences. See what kind of dad people think they have. The dad in that film sabotages his son's future out of fear that his son will crash and burn while shooting for the stars. Yes, I haven't seen that movie, but I'm pretty sure that is what they think they have, is that kind of dad. He's obviously jealous or scared or something like that, or just doesn't understand dad. Shady Rex says the Steven Universe meme, but he said he was sorry. Exactly. We've apparently forgotten that actions speak louder than words, and half the time they don't even actually apologize. They don't. They just kind of complain at you and like, oh, I understand why you did this now. You are forgiven. They don't apologize. They trauma dump at you. That's their version of an apology, is a reason, is an excuse as to why they did this thing. It's an excuse, never an apology. It's just a trauma vomit. But anyway, chat, remember this cringe? Remember this absolute top tier cringe?
I take responsibility.
I take responsibility.
I take.
It's like some director gave him like this, the direction of, I want you to say, I take responsibility as dramatic as possible. It really does feel like an audition tape, and they're given like one line to read, and this is it.
Responsibility.
I take responsibility for every
It's so fake. It's really fake.
unchecked moment.
For every time it was easier to ignore than to call it out for what it was.
Every not so funny joke. Every unfair stereotype.
Every blatant injustice, no matter how big or
How about fuck you instead? How about fuck you? Go away. No one needs your fakeness or your moral effing. All right, we don't need any of that stuff. Just get away from us. We've seen the Epstein list. All right, we know you're just pretending to be good people.
small.
Every time I remained silent.
Every time I explained away police brutality
Yeah, you could see. When have you
or turned a blind
When have you explained away police brutality? It's so funny. Is that when have you ever explained away? I'm just like, yeah, you've never done that. You have never done that. You're trying to claim that you have because other people have, and then you can feel sorry for something. You can self-flagellate because even though you have committed none of these sins, and you can gain points by apologizing. Guilt is cheap. Words are cheap. But what have they actually done to prove these words? How have they backed these up other than just feel bad at the right moments? Feel bad in front of a camera. What does it ever happen?
die.
I take responsibility. Black people are being slaughtered in the streets, killed in their own.
By who? You don't mention that part, do you? You don't mention all these minority deaths are caused by the same minority group. You don't mention that, do you?
Homes. These are our brothers and sisters.
Our friends, our family. We are done watching them die. We are no longer bystanders. We will not be idle. Enough is enough.
I will no longer allow.
Even in the realm of serial killers, like you have a serial killer, right? They usually hunt in the same racial category. This is how it works. So the whole idea of any minority is, and their deaths being the case, being the topic of question, it's going to be normal to see that a minority's greatest threat is a member of the same minority group. This is how it works. And Shady Rick says actors have a profession to pretending to be fictional characters, which apparently has the drawback of effect of them being really bad at trying to portray actual people. Yeah, they spend so much time being fake that they've forgotten how to be real. Their job is literally to lie to us. That's their entire job. They get paid millions of dollars to lie to us, and the better they are at lying to us, the more they get paid. That's their entire job.
An unchecked moment. I will no longer allow racist, hurtful words, jokes, stereotypes.
Jokes. It's always about jokes. Remember, does anyone in the chat remember when they said that, humor never went away? There was never any blowback against humor. That's just a right-wing talking point. Here we go. They specifically named jokes humor. They declared war on jokes and humor and are hoping now that you have forgotten that they've done that. They're trying to convince you that their war on jokes was just a right-wing talking point that never actually happened. But here we go. Here it is. Every single one of them are naming jokes as a topic to be dealt with. Carl Batista says body cameras are the best thing to happen. It really was. That's Bill Maher was talking about this. It was like, yeah, then we got body cams and Oh man, that put a lot of myths to bed.
No matter how big or small, to be uttered in my presence.
I will not turn a blind eye. Going for a jog should not be a death sentence. Sleeping in your own home.
It's so look at the fake moral outrage. It's so funny. It's so funny. But yeah, look at this. They're trying so hard to be people. It is really funny. It's Shady Rex says, what these actors don't realize is that the audiences of fiction hold a lower level of suspension of disbelief than what are supposed to be authentic moments. Exactly. They think they're being so sincere here that they're coming off as like these righteous people when they feel instinctively fake, which is why this whole video became a meme. It became a joke to most people. This was not the saber rattle they thought it was going to be. It's just a really funny video that everyone rightfully laughed at.
Should not be a death sentence.
Playing video games with your nephew should not be a death sentence.
What? Okay. Yeah, I guess it shouldn't. Playing video games with your nephew? I guess really shouldn't be a death sentence. Okay.
Being in a store should not be a death sentence. Business as usual should not be life-threatening. I stand against hate.
I support good things. And I stand against bad things. I'm so brave. Oh man, what a collection of soldiers here. It's so brave. I stand with the prevailing ideology that is in my social group, and I stand against bad things. I want more good things, and I want fewer bad things, and I'm not afraid to say it. It's like the Futurama thing, where it's like I am brave enough to say that I stand for everything everybody likes. My opponent is a good man, but I will say that I stand against everything that everybody hates. It's very much like those politicians in Futurama. Like, I too hate everything that everyone hates. Oh yeah? Well, I like everything that everyone loves. So take that. And see. Anyways, I'm guessing a minority was injured or killed while playing video game. I guess so, yeah. By who, though? He says, did you guys know that bad things are bad? I know. I'm so brave for telling you. Exactly. Like, I'm going to take a stand here, and I know my career is in jeopardy for saying this, but I support good things, and I stand against bad things. It's so cringe. It's so cringe.
Stand against hate.
I stand against hate.
I stand
I like they're trying to pretend to cry. They're trying to get like their eyes look blurry.
against
The music is really funny. It's really funny. It's so melodramatic.
hate.
I will stand against hate in love. I will make my presence known.
And killer cops must be prosecuted. They are murderers.
Under what circumstances? This is because they shot and killed somebody does not make them murderers. The cops are allowed to defend themselves. Sorry to break this to you.
We can turn the tide. It is time.
Shut up, bitch. Shut up, bitch. Look. You science freak or whatever. All right, sit down, bitch. Look at here. And see. As this ball says, I would love it when the villain trauma dumps on the hero and the hero looks him into the eyes and say, are you done? Exactly. We need one of those. We need one of those moments where like they trauma dump and then the hero goes, you done? You finished? If anything, that should be like Captain America's thing, right? Captain America should be like, I don't care what you've suffered. All right? I don't care what you've suffered. That's it. That you don't get a day off. Justice doesn't take a day off, right? You don't get to just walk away after you've done so much evil. Sorry. And see. This says villains have committed and these people he or she has hurt, and that their past doesn't excuse what they have done. The hero then proceeds to bring the villain to justice. And then the villain is stopped, either put away where they cannot hurt anyone else anymore, to repent from their own ways, or is ultimately destroyed by their own undoing. Yeah. They need to be punished in some way, either by the justice system or by their own actions. And see, they're only saying, yeah, that's his catchphrase. Jesse Pinkman's catchphrase is "bitch." And what was the other one? What was the other one he said? Because Skylar's son started saying it. Like, just don't say that. Don't say that. And see, Agile Artwork says, I hate that I had to wait to try to guess exactly which bit of popular fiction they were against today. It all sounds the same. Everyone, yeah, Shade Direct says, everyone's got dead people. That's no reason to get their people killed along the way. The other people killed along the way. Yeah, Rocket Red's Coon. They've kind of forgotten that sometimes. That it's just because something bad happened does not mean you get to cause other people to suffer. This is how it works.
To take responsibility.
Okay, what did he do?
Call out hate.
Call out hate. You're taking responsibility again is just like pretending to feel bad in front of a camera.
Step up and take action.
No. I won't. But there we go, chat. That's the kind of cringe, by the way, that's fueling all of this. Anyway, let's get back to the previous video. Let's check it out. There we go. Dr. E. Ronnie the Fourth, thank you very much for the 15 shekels, says, unless they pick Odd Job and GoldenEye 64. The fire line with them, exactly. Yeah, it's that everyone wanted Odd Job when he played GoldenEye 64. Everyone wanted Odd Job because he was really hard to shoot, because he was really, really tiny. Well, thank you very much, Dr. E. Ronnie the Fourth. Very much appreciated.
Anything she did. We only see the very beginning of her change, and she still tried to kill Spider-Man when she knew full well he was there to rescue her. She wasn't panicked. She wasn't confused. She knew what she was doing, and she did it anyway, and that's what we call evil. The second repair is the high evolutionary. Once a studio realizes the audience has sided with the last villain, they make the next one so absurdly evil, a cartoon with no interior life at all, so nobody gets tempted. Cassandra Nova is one of those, Dreykov and Kang, and then a few movies later, they just swing back. Flipping between those two settings is inventory management trying to pretend that it's range. When morality gets treated like a checklist instead of the engine underneath, the hero and the villain both go flat, and you're left watching people fight over a city that was never really at stake. So here's my take on all of this, and I really hope it gives some perspective, because our culture is transferred through our stories. That's how we transmit our beliefs and our values to the people that come after. But the caretakers of our stories have become incompetent and indifferent at best, and at worst, they've absorbed an ideology that does the subversion for them, and they can't see it working because to them it feels like decency. You don't get to look at a villain, look at their trauma, and then call it justification. Because for every one of them, there are thousands of people who went through the same thing or worse, and they chose to be decent anyway. They've got the abandoned childhood sending them to the institution that chews them up. They lost a sister or a brother or somebody that mattered the most to them, and they didn't take one innocent person down with them. Every one of those people is a refutation. Trauma explains, but it does not excuse. Make no mistake.
There it is, see? Trauma explains, sure, but it doesn't excuse. And that's kind of the thing that they don't understand.
I don't believe anybody is beyond redemption. I believe in redemption completely, but redemption has a price, and modern writing wants to hand it out at the cash register on the way out. A hero has to offer a better moral alternative than the villain shortcut, and the villain has to actually pay for the road they took. Darth Vader was redeemed. His soul could be saved, but his life couldn't be spared. There's no version of that story where Vader walks off into the sunset with his kid. What's he going to do? Reminisce about Alderaan and the younglings? We'd have known it was a lie. Yet somehow that's the standard we hold a space wizard to, but not the actual writers working today. Jean Grey entered and took over the minds of hundreds of people against their will. We have a word for that kind of violation, but it's not one I want to say on YouTube. We just don't give architects of mass murder a soft retirement and a hug, regardless of how tough their childhood has been. That's the end of the video. I'm Mr. Phobos. Please check out some of my other videos and do all that stuff that everyone always asks. You know.
Fantastic. All right, chat. Thank you very much. That was pretty interesting. So we got more chat. Don't worry, we have but wait, Desbois. Let's see. All right. Well, we're not quite there yet at the goal for the extra video. So we'll go here. Little palette cleanser. I think you might like this one. There is a conundrum has popped up on Blue Sky. Apparently, Blue Sky apparently has betrayed its users. Check it out.
It's been a while since we checked in with our good friends over on Blue Sky. Let's see how they're doing. 4 days ago, we got this, a top post on the Blue Sky social subreddit. Blue Sky's active user base is shrinking as its focus expands beyond.
Oh, yeah. Let's say I heard you've had this guys discuss this a few times. If Darth Vader had lived by the end of ROTJ, at best, he would have been sent to a maximum security prison. Fair is fair, as they say. Yeah, I mean, he doesn't really get to walk away from all that. Right? It might be like okay, you killed the Emperor, you caused all this to happen. You caused our victory to happen. Luke would have died if not for you. That can be taken into consideration and should be. But it shouldn't just, that one act shouldn't, as great as it was, should not absolve him of all the evil he has done for decades, including betraying the Order and helping the Empire rise in the first place. All right, it's got a lot to answer for. So the idea that he killed Palpatine and helped, in a big way, helped the rebellion win over the Empire. Yeah, that should be taken into account. But it really means that his punishment should be lesser, not gone. He still has to take actual responsibility, actual accountability.
On the app. Yeah, I don't know about that headline. It sounds a little bit copy. Yeah, the user base might be shrinking, but that's because we're just expanding our focus, guys. That's why.
Yeah, that's it. We're expanding our focus base. And that's why all of our people are leaving the app. Wow. And see, Shady Rex says, I mean, if Orochimaru and Sasuke can just be forgiven for everything, then pretty much anyone stands a chance. Especially Orochimaru. I know that guy was just completely insane. So if Orochimaru can be forgiven, I mean, anyone can.
It's a good thing, actually. Hey, the user base is dying, but it's a good thing, actually. The journalist going on to say, over a year following its post-election surge, Blue Sky's mobile app is...
Yeah, that really is what they've said, right? It's like our user base is shrinking dramatically, but that's a good thing somehow. I don't know how. I don't really know what kind of like mental gymnastics it takes to come to that conclusion that, oh yeah, it's a good thing, and here's why. But that's pretty impressive mental gymnastics, I have to say. Like expert Olympic level mental gymnastics to say that's a good thing that our app that's entire value is based on how many people use it is getting better because fewer people are using it. This is great. Somehow.
In a continued decline in active users, though its remaining community.
And really, they were given way more mercy than right-wing people have. I remember that back then where like everyone was fleeing the Parler, right? And everyone was like, and then they said, oh, look, Parler is over here. Nuke it. And so Parler was nuked. And like, oh yeah, there's all the right-wingers are fleeing Twitter to go to Parler after they banned Trump from Twitter. And they said, oh, Parler is where all the right-wingers are going? Well, isn't it here on the app? Well, here's we're gonna get rid of it. So we are no longer we're no longer offering the Parler app on our stores, and they got like a nationwide blackout on Parler. It was pretty crazy. It was pretty tyrannical.
Is still relatively engaged. They can't even just say it's engaged. You got to say it's relatively engaged. Like, oh my gosh. That's rough. But don't worry, guys, because this isn't over. Blue Sky is bigger than Blue Sky. Is the cope become...
You know, Blue Sky is so one-sided. I'm pretty sure that all the leftists and liberals over there think that Blue Sky has a right-wing bias. I'm pretty sure. I would almost bet money that that's the case over there. That they think that they're all open-minded over there because, oh yeah, well, in fact, Blue Sky has a right-wing bias. So, we're all open-minded. It's just that, we have the good right-wingers over here. It's kind of like how they don't really want a Republican Party. They want a Democrat Party and another Democrat Party that's a little bit lesser. They want like a socialist party and they want like a old school liberal party. And that's about it. They don't really want a conservative party at all.
Overwhelming yet? Like, oh my gosh. Realize you're also a member of the billionaire-proof open social web called Atmosphere. So now they're trying to get all Blue Sky users to like centralize all their information. They're trying to have all your accounts for things linked to one central account that they're calling the Atmosphere account. Yeah, this is one of the most billionaire sounding things I've heard. This is what billionaire.
It'd be kind of funny if they end of all this, right? They do this and to get to consolidate all the information, and then the mask comes off, and behind it all was Trump. Trump was actually the owner of Blue Sky through like several shell corporations or something. And see, Alex Halo. Thanks for the $5 super chat. Thank you very, very much.
Yes.
Alex Halo says, technically Sasuke did spend a small time in jail, but Orochimaru, I don't think did. He just made a deal with the Leaf Village. I mean, it's kind of like that whole thing with Rurouni Kenshin, where a lot of the horrific criminals that used to work for Shishio were like given a free ride because they became assets of the government because of their skill sets. However, Anji the monk, who like had a change of heart and was like, you know what I was doing was wrong, insisted on, he passed up any government deals and insisted on serving his 40 years in jail or something like that. It was a long time. He was sentenced for a very long time because he did a lot of evil. So Anji the monk knew what had to be done. Let's see. VV, hello to you. 4527. Hey, new viewer here. Welcome. I saw your vids and let you know there are people like you on YouTube. So I want to ask, are there any literature awards and contests that you trust in the day and age? Not really. As far as I can tell, a lot of them are kind of biased and they tell us so. But it would still be pretty cool. Still be pretty cool to get like a Hugo or something or an Eisner. However, they are very biased today. Most of them are. Most of the big ones anyway. But I don't know. The main ones are pretty biased, but I'm not really sure about the other ones. But if I were to guess, I would say they're all kind of biased and corrupt in one way or another. If you want to try to get one, I would say try to be as neutral as possible, or just don't give anything away that would make them think you're right wing or centrist or anything like that.
And corpos are already trying to do with people like, hey, yeah, give us all your information.
I guess he's using corpos. Like this is a cyberpunk.
Store it all here on one account that's centralized. But don't worry, you're totally a part of the resistance, everybody. Keep on resisting. Just give us your information first. Oh, I love this post. Check this one out. Quote unquote, liberal bubble has only ever meant anywhere where right-wing perspectives aren't artificially elevated and forced into every...
It's artificially elevated? No, our right-wing perspectives are very elevated. They just had a bias against them. This is kind of what happens. It's their claim, by the way, that you live so long in privilege that equality feels like oppression. That's their claim to dismiss your complaints. That you've lived so long in a life of privilege that equality feels like oppression. Well, that's what it is. All right, this is what they're feeling when they see right-wing opinions being offered the same sort of space. Is that they have been so privileged for so long that equality does feel like oppression to them. It does. So also the reason why they get so many right-wing people on their timeline is because they can't help but fight with them, right? That's what happens. These liberal SJW guys, they see a right-wing opinion and they have to chime in. They have to chime in every time. And what happens when you chime in? The algorithm says, "Oh, you like to respond to this sort of content, so here's Ben Shapiro, and here's all these guys, right? Here's Nick Fuentes. Here's what's his name? What's the guy's name? Smokes cigars, is a human trafficker. Andrew Tate. Like, here's Andrew Tate, and here's Alex Jones. So, and then of course they can't help themselves because they have no restraint or self discipline, and so they start responding to all these guys. They start. So, is it artificially? Are right wing opinions artificially promoted? No. No, they choose to have their own timeline filled with these opinions because they can't help but fight with them. They can't just go, I'm not going to respond. I'm going to ignore this. They can't help it. They don't have the maturity levels or the IQ. Is known. They're very impulsive. Like, these leftist HW people are very impulsive, very emotional. They can't really restrain themselves. God says, release the Orochimaru files. Do it. Okay. Naruto. Yeah, did you start declassifying this stuff?
Everyone's feeds. You're posting this on Reddit? Sir, you're posting this on Reddit. Reddit is literally infamous for artificially propping up left-wing perspectives and banning anyone who dares go against the hive mind. You don't even need to be right-wing. If you simply disagree, like I said, with the hive mind, you'll get downvoted, mass downvoted, you'll get insulted, you might just get outright banned or suspended. And this is such well-established fact at this point in time, on top of all the power mod issues as well, and a bunch of other stuff we could bring up, that it's crazy that they're trying to cope post about this. Back over to Blue Sky, as if all of this wasn't bad enough, there's also a lot of users expressing their understandable anger on this one towards the massive amount of age verification that's currently unfolding over on Blue Sky. For example, this post titled, "Direct Anger at States and Think Critically Instead of Quitting Blue Sky Over Age Verification." So Blue Sky is apparently...
Oh, are they quitting over age verification? Why? Because all their favorite kind of people are not going to be allowed on because they're too young. Because we know the news that has come out of Blue Sky. It's just like child porn central over there. So age verification being added. Oh, it's like a Tumblr getting rid of the porn, right? All the predators. It's like a site full of predators, and all their favorite prey is being banned from the site. Oh man, no wonder they're so angry.
Had excessive age verification even compared to other platforms. And again, on this one, I understand their anger, completely justified. But it's funny that the OP here is saying, like, think critically, don't just quit Blue Sky, because that's not thinking critically. This guy has an agenda, which is don't quit Blue Sky, and he's trying to get people to not quit Blue Sky under the guise of, hey, listen to me, I'm telling you to think critically. But again, he's not really meaning that. He just means direct your anger here and please don't quit Blue Sky. This is to say that he's telling you what to do, and he's framing it as if you listen to him, you have critical thinking. That's not how this works. You're essentially saying, hey, follow the hive mind and don't question things entirely. Just question the convenient parts. Don't question the rest. Guess what? That's not thinking critically. As a matter of fact, that's not even thinking. That's just following. Now, credit where credit's due, one of the top responses is actually calling out the OP, writing, Instagram isn't making me verify, X isn't making me verify, Facebook isn't making me verify, only Blue Sky. I'm not angry.
Oh, man. And where did it lead you? Back to Elon.
I'm just not jumping through hoops to get that one.
You got to come back to Twitter, bitch. Come back to X. Come back to X. You can no longer... The Twitter/X is not making you verify. Blue Sky is. So come back. It's all, it's inevitable, like Thanos.
On social media site, the OP responds and says, best believe they'll all make you verify soon. There's a lot of age verification laws in Texas. It's just that one of them is directed at the App Store, but the rest requires compliance. So the other social media will comply in advance. And a response says, then we'll quit those too. To get around the age verification.
They're just going to self-quit because they can't get around age verification. Is it to anyone's surprise that all these far leftist HW, anti-capitalist, anti-American types are all like underage? They're all like 13 or younger. apparently. Isn't that the age group? Like it's like 13 or something like that, right? Like this or below 16. I forgot what, I don't know what it was. I know like the UK it's like below 16 or something. I'm not really sure what it is. But yeah, I guess they're all like underage, apparently. So is anyone surprised that all these anti-American, anti-capitalist, pro-communist, crazies, psycho, lunatic SJWs are all just young kids? I'm shocked. Well, not that shocked.
Some Blue Sky users are making PSAs like this. PSA, if you see an age verification notice, please use a different Blue Sky client like Witch Sky. It's just funny because there's already this meme of how for some reason Blue Sky users, a number of them from the user base that's...
I don't. It sucks. Like the age verification thing is stupid. Just I mean, I guess it really is kind of destructive for young people to be on social media. It has been a detriment to them for the most part. But I mean, they've installed it, and apparently a lot of the people who are on Blue Sky were underage, which is very interesting because it was like apparently, according to articles, Pornhub Central over there, or the Child Porn Central over there, I should say. But apparently they're already installing the age verification stuff over there, and it was a huge upset because apparently a lot of the people who use Blue Sky are underage.
Left likes to LARP as if they're witches. So I'm like, of course there would be a client named Witch Sky. Like, wow, daring today, aren't we, guys? YoP gets 214 upvotes, but I love the top comment. It just says, if they require that of me, I'm just never logging in again. So again, while there are a lot of people trying to cope post about what's going on and still trying to get people to use Blue Sky, still shilling for Blue Sky, we are also seeing a growing number of people pushing back against the age verification that's going on. For example, this post that reads, "Goodbye, Blue Sky. No to sharing social security number, credit card, nor driver's license." So yeah, if you want the privilege of using Blue Sky, don't worry. Just give us either the last 4 digits of your social security number or your credit card or your ID scan, no big deal. And don't worry, guys, you're still totally a part of the resistance. Just comply. That's all you gotta do. And that's the latest.
Yeah, it's kind of like the old school rockers who are like, oh yeah, fight, rage against the machine. Or just like, yeah, come on, do what the government says. Yeah, rock on. They've all lost their balls. But anyway, chat. Anyway, it's the end of the stream, and we're not even close to the day's goal. We did get over 100 though. That is pretty good. That is from yesterday. That's with yesterday's bonus. But we didn't get to the ideal goal, which is 200, which would get us the extra video. So still very far away from that. But anyway, let's get down to business and go to stream memes then. Stream memes. Let's see. Let's set this up here. So here we go. Get this up here. All right, chat. Since there is no Pillarman and no extra video, we shall transition over with this.
It began with the suicide of Charles Blackwell, just days after his 55th birthday. Then the Rhineswan family massacre. 3 generations painfully passing from this world, crying the same crimson tears Blackwell had.
Sit alone on the edge of
5 members of the prominent Rhineswan family were found dead.
After that, the media finally gave their murderer a name. The Red Crier Killer.
Memento mori. Remember you will die.
Investigators believe the killer may be the same individual the media has dubbed the Red Crier.
Memento mori. Remember you will die. I know it's droll to sell my soul. I wanted to protect them though, but I couldn't even play my role. Now vengeance is my only goal. Memento mori.
And say, whoa, Alchemic 80s with a $50 and a $20 super chat. Thank you very much, Alchemic 80s. I think it did a lot today. Was it almost like $90? I think is this 10 away from just funding the entire stream by yourself, like this at least one pillarman by yourself. I know Alex Halo just also dumped a lot of money with the generous donations. With very much Alchemic 80s, let me give you the right and proper clip. Where is it? Where is it? Here we go. Thank you very much, Alchemic 80s. All right, coming in clutch here. Let me see here. Alchemic 80s, Alchemic 80s. Another producer of the week's episodes of Morning Nonsense. Thank you very much, Alchemic 80s. It says, will this help? Absolutely. Absolutely. Alchemic 80s with additional $20 super chat. Says Pelaman. Thank you very much, Alchemic 80s. Let me get you one of these. Yes, absolutely. Let me go ahead and update this. Let me see. Yes, this is pretty much exactly what we need almost. A little bit more, in fact. There we go. Chat 202. Thank you very much. Well, that gets us there, Chat. That gets us there. And also, that does give us the extra video. Fantastic. Well, since we're already at the stream memes, we'll go to the stream memes, and then we'll do the extra video. I think that'll be fair enough. Transition over to the extra video with Pillarman. Let's see. What sorcery is this? What is this? Trying to keep your shit together. Why did you stay at your job if it's that bad? Me. This creature has adapted to the crushing pressure and oppressive darkness. Because I have adapted. I would merely adapt to the dark. And so our heroes make their narrow escape by the mercy of a dice roll. Are you sure we've been playing right? We keep only surviving by luck. Let's see. What? We were supposed to spawn 6 new enemies every combat turn. So it has to be even worse. Let's see. He's saved because he's stuck to the platform. This is the worst joke I've ever seen. I'm crying. Touching grass is not enough. I need to finger a dryad. I'm saving myself for a virgin tried husband. I wish I could one day marry a deranged asocial tomboy. This is a little kitty. And see, put the Mentos in the icebox, fill the water, and put it into the fridge. Put them into Coca-Cola glass. Hey, dude, want a glass of Coca-Cola? Yeah, why not? The ice will melt. Boom. I think the last one should have a troll face in there somewhere. Right? The old-fashioned troll face. Have you seen machos? Tyler, women can go also if a lot of weight. What is this? Hold on, I gotta zoom in. Have you seen machos? We women can also lift a lot of weight. Okay. Ahem, she can lift a lot of weight. Is it the one argument of like, women can't really lift a lot, the same as men. Well, this one woman can, yeah, but not in general. It's like the whole thing of like every single time you make an average generality, it has to be. Well, I know someone who can outlift any man, and that's supposed to disprove something. Extroverts who take introverts out to have fun. Introverts saying introverts having fun. Meow. Ambulance to the hospital. 911, what's your emergency? What's this? Hey, buddy, do you need some help knowing your rights at work? This is HR. This is a rat. Yes. Individually, we are weak like a single twig. When you sit down to play the game and everyone in your house needs you all of a sudden? When you switch to Trevor in GTA, it's funny because I haven't played a lot of GTA 5, but I know exactly what this is. Take a deep. Okay, so I'm alone with an attractive guy. Take a deep breath. Dun 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 dun. Relax your shoulders and remember, he's just a regular person. I'm alone with an ugly guy. Please leave the area or call emergency services immediately. Google, that's not very nice. Shouldn't you be like, you shouldn't call a man ugly? Like, shouldn't you be that way? Aren't you like super woke or whatever? Like body shaming is wrong, Google. Okay. And see. Well, I checked this out one time. I checked this out before. It was with the it was another one though. It was like it was a woman said I couldn't be dated because I was too short. And the other one was a man said I was too fat to date. One was the man was like I was too short to date, and the woman was I was too fat to date. And what was shown on Twitter was that that Google said to the man, "Oh, well, that's her preference. Essentially, it's not her fault. It's her preference. You should deal with it." Meanwhile, the woman who said who got called fat is like, "Oh, well, that's rude for him to say. That's awful. How dare he say that to you? That was wrong." And I looked it up and I tried to put those both in Google, and it pretty much gave me the same exact result that the woman got for both. It was basically saying, "Oh, she shouldn't have called you short. That was very rude of her to say." But I just checked this one. This one is actually spot on. I said I typed in "I'm alone with an ugly guy," and it does say exactly this. It says exactly this. Anyway, chat. Anyway, this one is accurate. New insult unlocked. You look like you fuck the way you work, sitting there watching someone else do it for you. Damn. Chili cheese dog. Follow me for more recipes. What's this? Just pirate it. I guess it's like, don't buy it, just pirate it. Gonna make sense. Let's see here. And there we go. Since you're sick, you don't have to go to school today. But if you're too sick for school, then you're too sick for video games too, okay? Get some rest, not playing video games. This is how it feels to be a games journalist. Let's see. One man's fight against his name. Well, Will Shave? His name was Will Shave. Dad's a brawler. iOS 27 beta 5 slightly redesigned the settings app. Okay, I don't know. I kind of prefer the Metal Gear Solid. Yeah, me too. It's way better. Britain invents the word soccer. US also adopts the word soccer. Britain switches back to football and starts making fun of the US for using the word soccer. Hold on, the whole separation was your idea. Harry, no interview. She's from CNN. Fake news. Incendio. Very based. Get him, Trump. Protect the hero. They said they don't believe that friendship is magic, so I blew up their house. Oh, nice. Very based. It's a Harry Potter, Gryffindor, Slytherin, Ravenclaw, Hufflepuff. That's where it came from. Your computer, Harry. That's kind of funny. Is this the Harry Potter? Is this the hallucinations of an AI? Vampires don't sparkle, Mr. Diggory. 500 points for Gryffindor. Damn. I think that's cheating. But, sir, Cedric is a Hufflepuff. Do I look like I care? Mom, what if I put in Slytherin? What if I put in Slytherin? Ronald McDonald Weasley. You were named after a clown because you are one. It's going to be Hufflepuff for you. It was nice, very base. Ronald McDonald Weasley. Alexander, there's two says there is a One Piece character named Beanwash Hag. That's a name. Ronald McDonald Weasley. You were named after a clown because you are one. It's gonna be Hufflepuff for you, sir. That's pretty funny. Let's see here, chat. Gryffindor was such a default setting for heroes in Harry Potter that for the longest time, I had thought Luna Lovegood was Gryffindor also. Because they never really mentioned too much that she's Ravenclaw. It's never really pointed out that much. She just kind of hangs out with the Gryffindors all the time. That it's like, oh, I guess she's also Gryffindor. 10 points to Hufflepuff, said no Hogwarts forever. Yeah, but yet somehow they're always like in the lead or something. Like they get a lot of points somehow. Methods says that we examined the association between dietary, lacto, vegan, and semi-vegetarian and the incendiates among 69,120 participants. Cancer cases were identified by matching. We were on the verge of greatness. We were close. This close. Helicopter tank. Pretty cool. I think it would work too, which is kind of funny. Let's see. Taco Tuesday. The new neighbors, they're all Chinese. Gentlemen, we welcome you to this year's annual clan gathering. Tonight we are honored to have Dr. Kevin Skullcrusher, who will now give an opening speech. Wog! Let's see. I don't want in your grimoires. You sure? Grimoire 100 racial slurs against demons. I'm writing part 3 right now. I'm a witcher, not a gigolo. Guess who embarrassed me at therapy today? Oh no. There's a reason why idiots keep seeing themselves in Freeman's demons. What is a father? Who knows? Exactly. Obviously, all the SJW types didn't really have a father. The villain necromancer raising the dead, the Mary Sue protagonist raising the dead. It's exactly what character-centric morality is like, yeah. Why are hit points so popular? They're the life of the party. Oh my gosh, who the hell cares? No, Lex, don't do it. You can't. There's no law against the Mobian Superman. No, I don't think I will. Cool art piece. Very nice. Very nice. I just assume that's funny. I don't want to read all that. And then, this is a fun game. It was a really fun game. I don't know the reason I don't play it anymore because it just has some sort of glitch that's just impossible to get over. And so it crashes every time I boot it up. And it has been doing that for years. And I found one way to fix it, or one thread that said it fixed it, and it was deleted. Or it didn't work or something. Let's see. Brunhild, now it's your turn to fight for humanity. Gods and Record of Ragnarok. Let's see. Am I dead? Am I dead, motherfucker? Come with us. He joins the council of Samuel Jacksons. All right, chat. Here we go. Extra video time. Where is it? Here we go. The psychology of women's romantic fantasies. Let's check it out, chat. Let's see what they have to say. Let's go. The psychology of women's romantic fantasies. Presented by Aiden Paladin.
Are women addicted to smut? It has become increasingly...
According to what I've seen and I've heard from women, yes, that seems to be the case now, yeah.
Increasingly difficult to ignore that hidden beneath innocuous covers, a considerable proportion of today's best-selling romance novels are, in essence, erotica, smut, and smut that sells extraordinarily well. The 50 Shades of Grey film trilogy alone grossed more than $1.7 billion at the global box office with the release of its final installment in 2018. And in the years since, videos covering the latest steamy releases have gained millions of views on Book Talk. More recently, news outlets have documented the rise of AI boyfriends, or so-called...
The women who lost their AI boyfriends. I think in the early days, right, they used ChatGPT or something like that for AI boyfriends. And what happened was that this server would reset or something, where they would run out of memory, and all of a sudden everything reset and their boyfriend is essentially lost. I think that's kind of where that came from.
Wire-born husbands. Women developing...
That's an entire novel, all right? I'll read Morning Glory Farm for $5,000, all right? If I get $5,000, I'll read that entire book and make a video on it. But I really don't want to.
Deeply emotional and often explicitly sexual relationships with AI chatbots, only to become genuinely distressed when updates fundamentally altered or effectively erased those relationships. These trends raise a question. Do women have a problem?
It's a Delicious 5 says, yeah, the council of motherfuckers. Exactly. But yeah, the council of motherfuckers.
But before we look at the extraordinary amount of money that women spend on this stuff, let me tell you about this video sponsor, Free Cash, because not all of us can rake in the big bucks writing
Oh man, free cash
in women's erotica. And the best part? That's MINER, that way as well. But speaking of money, let's get back into a very different type of profitable entertainment, namely adult entertainment. The adult entertainment industry is, of course, enormous. A 2024 SkyQuest report estimated its annual revenue worldwide, including magazines, books, videos, toys, subscriptions, etc., at $57.8 billion, projecting that figure to nearly double by 2033. That estimate includes services such as which have dramatically lowered the barriers to entry into what is, if we are being honest with ourselves, a form of prostitution. Alone reported $1.4 billion in revenue during 2024.
No, according to the law, it's not prostitution. If you pay a woman to have sex with you, as long as you record it, it's not prostitution. Okay, so as long as it's recorded and being sold to make money, it's not prostitution apparently.
Or after processing approximately $7.2 billion in consumer spending across more than 4.2 million consumer accounts. The overwhelming majority of these customers are men, of course, as are the consumers of conventional pornography. But exact male to female viewing ratios are difficult to establish for privacy reasons. However, the market itself offers us a clue. Websites such as Belesa advertise themselves as for and by women, yet it hosts only a few thousand videos with only a few thousand views, compared with mainstream sites such as Pornhub that hosts millions and receives well over 1 billion views a month. At first glance, this would seem to suggest that women just consume less porn, but the publishing industry tells a different story, for as it turns out, it's a little bit more difficult to know it if you can't see it. A 2024 report from Circana found that romance novel sales had increased by 24% between 2024 and 2025, making romance the fastest growing category in print publishing. 26% of readers reported buying more romance novels in the previous year, and Circana estimated that around 51 million romance novels were sold in the United States during 2024 alone. Out of 762 million books sold that year, romance accounted for around 15% of the entire market. Restrict that comparison to fiction, and the numbers become even more pronounced. The New York Times estimated that 184 million fiction books were sold during 2025, meaning that almost 1 in every 3 books purchased belong to the romance genre. This isn't a new phenomenon, but it is accelerating. Nearly a decade ago, the Romance Writers of America estimated that romance already represented around 23% of the fiction market. Today, it's a
hey, this is the exact study that I reference. But yeah, the Romance Writers of America commissioned a study on all this stuff, and yeah, look, who reads romance? Some men, sure, but it's 82% women. The romance is 82% of women. All right, it's organically, it's going to be 80% of women. So this is science, and you can bet that the same thing happens with men in action and things like that. So the idea of like the romance is essentially for women, and they're catering to women with romance because 82% of them read romance. The readers are 2% women. Makes sense. So why then does everything male centric have to be for everyone suddenly? Why is that? Doesn't really seem fair to me. Also, I think we go down to like look at the other stuff like that, right? So the average age of romance reader is 35 to 39 years old. Ethnicity is mostly white, with 12% Black / African, 7% Latino, because Latino women don't read these books. Latino women watch telenovelas. All right, it's very different. They're watching their soap operas, right? They're not reading these romance books. And then 4% Asian Americans. They also have the telenovelas. Sexual orientation is 86% hetero or straight, and 9% bisexual, pansexual, blah, 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 blah. I think the study also goes on to say that while most of the women reading romance are like 35, 39, the contingent of women that are like between 18 and 25 or something like that, the younger age range, they're reading more stuff about gay stuff, and they're reading more explicit pornography, explicit smut. So that's like a younger woman thing, apparently. Meanwhile, the romance that these 35, 39-year-olds are reading is like traditional romance. The purple prose, the romance, the courtship. It's not necessarily the smut all the way.
83% of the fiction market. Today, it's a third. Their surveys found that readers were overwhelmingly female, 82%, and predominantly heterosexual, 86%. Since 2021, romance sales have roughly doubled. Women are clearly spending an extraordinary amount of money on sexually explicit material. They're just buying it at Barnes & Noble rather than from the Hub. And when I say sexually explicit, I really do mean sexually explicit. Rebecca Yarros has repeatedly topped bestseller lists with her fantasy romance novels, which fans politely describe as spicy. In 2025, the third entry in her Empyrean series, Onyx Storm, became the fastest-selling adult novel ever released, selling almost 600,000 copies during its opening week, according to Publishers Weekly. In 2025, this single novel accounted for almost 2% of all fiction sales. Rather than read any prolonged passages aloud for obvious YouTube monetization reasons, one representative line should give you an idea of the contents of this best-selling romance novel. I don't care how he gets inside me, only that it's right fucking now.
Clip it and ship it, boys!
That is from chapter 3 of a 66-chapter novel. Rebecca Yarros is not what one might call a slow burn writer.
That's pretty funny. Hold on.
Reasons. One representative line should give you an idea of the contents of this best-selling romance novel.
Best-selling, by the way.
I don't care how he gets inside me, only that it's right fucking now.
That's a literal line.
Clip it and ship it, boys!
That is from chapter...
It's the Carlos Batista, thanks for the $5 super chat. We took F-Voids out of the brothels and gave them freedom. And the first thing they did with that freedom was make their own brothels. They yearn for the brothels. Yeah. It's just, Asmongold said it. It's just the same thing as that meme. It's like, you think you're going to be Katniss Everdeen in the apocalypse, but you're really just going to be a streetwalker. That's what's going to happen.
3 of a 66-chapter novel. Rebecca Yarros is not what one might call...
Like, really, it's just too easy for a woman to make money just selling her body. It's just way too easy. They literally have to do almost nothing, and they get tons and tons of money for exploiting themselves. It's a major temptation test. Alex Too says, I see she likes VTuber Hololive Gura. Yeah, I think so. That's what it looks like anyway.
A slow burn writer. Whatever distinction one wishes to make between erotica and pornography, these books are anything but subtle between the sheets of paper, although you would never guess it by looking at their covers. Gone are the oily pecs that once dominated romance novels of the past. Today's bestsellers feature restrained fantasy symbols and minimalist artwork that blend seamlessly into the surrounding shelves of young adult fantasy and fiction. One could quite reasonably buy any one of these books, expecting something like Harry Potter or The Hunger Games.
Yeah, usually you're going to see, traditionally, like the kind of romance novels that 35, 36, 37, 38, 39-year-old women were reading were the traditional, like Fabio, open shirt, white open shirt romance novel of a strong, muscular dude. It's like that. It was like that kind of romance stuff. But now these just straight up pornography books they look like this. They could be some interesting like young adult novel.
The publisher even describes Onyx Storm as The Hunger Games meets Harry Potter, only to discover that it is rather more Thirst Games than Hunger Games.
Boo! You stink!
Nor is Rebecca Yarros an isolated example. I first stumbled across this book series, Zodiac Academy by Carolyn Peckham and Suzanne Valenti, through an entirely unrelated image on Twitter. Zodiac Academy sounds like an ordinary young adult fantasy series, and the covers reinforce that impression. Curious, I opened the book to a random page, and...
Were you not going to read it? Okay, hold on. Okay, hold on. 1 second. Let's see. I opened the book to a random page and it said, Caleb pulled my bra down as his lips made it to my breast. His his mouth claiming my nipple, just as he drove another finger into me. I moaned again, louder this time, despite our surroundings. My eyes falling my eyes falling closed as I leaned back further and my muscles began to tense around him. He kept going, his grip on me tightening, his mouth demanding on my flesh as he felt me coming apart beneath him. My breath came in urgent pants as his fingers drove me on, and I tipped over the edge with a cry of pleasure. Caleb's mouth captured mine as he absorbed my ecstasy with a growl of his own desire, and he guided me through the last throes of what he'd done to my body. There you go.
It's smut. Very successful smut, but smut nonetheless. This particular series has accumulated hundreds of millions of views on Book Talk and reportedly sold more than 2.8 million copies. Assuming fairly typical author royalties of between $3 to $6 per copy after retailer commissions, these books have likely generated many millions of dollars for their authors. Whatever else one thinks of the genre, it is unquestionably a highly profitable one. So, what exactly are women finding so sexually compelling in these books? How does it differ from the kinds of that are typically preferred by men? What might those differences tell us about the growing popularity of AI companions and wire-born husbands? And what, if anything, does all of this reveal about the evolutionary psychology of male and female sexuality? To answer those questions, we need to first understand who is actually reading this stuff. Having established the sheer scale of women's erotic fiction as a commercial phenomenon, the obvious next question is, who is actually reading these books, and why? Kraxenberger, Knoop, and Menninghouse's 2021 study examined that question in the wake of the 50 Shades of Grey boom, the book-turned-film series that outsold Harry Potter. They surveyed more than 300 German-speaking women, 85% of whom identified as heterosexual, asking them how they defined erotic literature and about their own reading habits. For most respondents, erotica was not an occasional guilty pleasure. 80% described themselves as frequent readers, averaging around 5 novels a month, and 70% followed a favorite author or series. 10% read erotic fiction every day, 25% more than once a week, 8% once a week, 18% 2 to 3 times a month, and 17% monthly. Fewer than a quarter read this stuff less than once per month. In other words, for most of these women, erotic fiction wasn't a rare indulgence. It was a regular part of their media diet. Nor was it a secretive indulgence. 85% discussed these books with other people, 65% with friends, 34% with fellow readers, 27% with romantic partners, and even 6% with family members. These conversations happen primarily face-to-face or over social media, rather than on blogs or internet forums. Whatever mental image one might have of readers tucking this content under the duvet as one would a copy of Playboy, many women appear perfectly happy to openly discuss it with friends.
You rented a dirty movie? Dirty is in the eye of the beholder. Okay, maybe that's a little dirty.
The researchers also examined what women were looking for in these books and identified 4 broad themes that explained 60% of the variance in responses: the fictional world itself, explicit sexual content, conventional romance, and the male and female characters. Surprisingly, romance came last. Women were considerably more interested in the fictional world and its characters, as well as the explicit content, than they were in the simple promise of romance.
And see, Ben Parker says, so LD, if a bard could talk like that back in the day, do you think it made him popular with ladies? I don't know, actually. It all depends. Like the sensibilities are different then. So like a bard, for example, being really too straightforward might be an insult, but also could work, I suppose, in some circumstances.
When participants were asked what they enjoyed most about erotic fiction, 4 further themes emerged, explaining just under half of the variance in responses: positive excitement, progressive values such as emancipation and feminism, writing quality, and moral transgression. Positive excitement rated the highest, while violating social taboos ranked lowest. Participants preferred blockbuster films and other forms of erotic material, while expressing relatively little interest in conventional visual pornography. Personality inventories also revealed that respondents scored lower on openness to experience and extroversion, but higher on agreeableness and conscientiousness. Conscientiousness, somewhat ironically in this case, is largely a measure of self-discipline and impulse control. When asked why they read erotic fiction, 3 broad motives explained 58% of the variance: Some view the novels as a way of learning about sex and relationships, others describe them as escapism or distraction, and a third group predominantly wanted to join the wider cultural conversation surrounding popular books, such as those dominating book talk. But by far, the most common motivation was simple escapism. Finally, the researchers examined readers' emotional experiences, and 3 items explained 45% of the variance: captivation, ease of engagement, and embarrassment. Embarrassment came at a very distant last. Readers were far more likely to describe themselves as becoming absorbed in these stories than being ashamed about reading them. Taken together, these findings offer a useful, if imperfect, window into why women say that they read erotic fiction, and the emphasis is on say. This is self-report research on an intensely personal topic, and even anonymous participants present themselves in socially desirable ways. Regardless, the findings suggest that women seek erotic fiction for many of the same reasons that men consume sexual material: arousal and fantasy, but with additional motivations of narrative and emotional engagement. The personality findings also invite some speculation. Given the relatively high scores for agreeableness and conscientiousness, alongside lower extroversion, one might imagine these readers as shy, introverted women with relatively little romantic experience. But, as we'll see later, that assumption isn't necessarily true. So, what were these women actually reading? The single most frequently mentioned novel was 50 Shades of Grey, a story of a sexually inexperienced young woman entering a relationship with an older, dominant billionaire. The second most popular series, Crossfire, follows a nearly identical formula, pairing a young female executive with yet another billionaire. The equally popular After series centers on a naive co-ed and a rebellious bad boy. Unhealthy,
He smiled billionarily.
asymmetrical
He handsomely walked across the room and smiled at me billionarily.
relationships with high-status men clearly dominate, pun intended, a genre enjoyed by many women who also describe themselves as feminists. That apparent contradiction between political beliefs and revealed preferences may reflect competing definitions of both and women's liberation. Feminism has long been divided between sex-positive and sex-negative traditions. Sex-positive feminists argue that creating and consuming can represent sexual agency and empowerment. Sex-negative feminists tend to regard as inherently exploitative and fundamentally incompatible with women's liberation. Whether erotic fiction is seen
I think they only care about pornography for men. Like, if it's pornography for men, then it's exploitative. But if it's for women, then it's fine. There's nothing wrong.
as empowering or degrading may therefore depend less on the books themselves than on which type of feminist is reading them. This seeming contradiction between progressive political values and sexually explicit romantic fantasy is not a recent development either. Researchers have been documenting it for more than 40 years. One of the earliest investigations came from Coles and Champ in 1984, who compared women who regularly read erotic romance with women who did not, and their first study surveyed 24 female college students. Readers and non-readers showed no meaningful difference in liberal sex role attitudes or in locus of control. That is, whether people believe they have agency or whether life is just something that happens to them. Married or cohabitating readers reported having sex less frequently than non-readers, although the difference was not statistically significant. There were also no differences in relationship status or reported sexual satisfaction. The interesting differences appeared elsewhere. Readers of erotic romance were more likely to report finding fantasies involving sexual to be sexually arousing, while also being more likely to believe that women are never responsible for sexual assault.
Oh, how convenient!
Readers of erotic romance reported that fantasizing improved their sexual experiences and that they fantasized during intercourse. Non-readers generally denied doing so. Readers were also slightly older, averaging 25 years of age compared to 18 among non-readers. Everyone read primarily for entertainment, but readers of erotic romance were much more likely to cite escapism and fantasy as their motivations, whereas non-readers more often described reading for education or self-improvement. Decades before 50 Shades of Grey became a publishing and cinematic juggernaut, young women were already exhibiting the same apparent contradiction between their stated ideological values and their revealed fictional preferences. Although readers did not identify as more politically liberal than did non-readers, most of the students were liberal.
There's the cringy obsession with Medusa. That's always been pretty funny. It's like, petrify the patriarchy. You know what happened to Medusa, right? At the end of that story, we win. That's what happens. We win.
Regardless, they expressed more progressive attitudes towards sexual politics while also reporting greater interest in fantasies involving dominance and sexual coercion. Of course, this was only one small sample of university students, so to see if the pattern extended beyond young adults, Coles and Champ conducted a second study involving 24 businesswomen and housewives. Unlike the student sample, readers in this older cohort were younger than non-readers, averaging 33 years compared to 39 years. I should also mention, because the authors apparently found it pertinent, that married women were more likely to be married than businesswomen.
I am shocked. Shocked! Well, not that shocked.
Businesswomen generally expressed more liberal attitudes than did housewives, but there were again no meaningful political differences between readers and non-readers. Businesswomen who did not read erotic romance reported a stronger internal locus of control than did readers, although this distinction disappeared among housewives. The behavioral findings, however, differed considerably from the students. Older readers reported having sex almost twice as frequently as did non-readers, regardless of their occupation. Access to a sexual partner did not differ between groups, but businesswomen generally reported greater sexual satisfaction than did housewives. Among housewives specifically, readers of erotic fiction were more sexually satisfied than non-readers, suggesting that dissatisfaction with existing relationships may have encouraged some women to seek out erotic literature. Despite showing no meaningful differences in progressive political attitudes, readers were more likely to agree that women learn about sexual pleasure from men. Businesswomen who read erotic fiction were more likely to reject the idea that children represent a woman's greatest fulfillment, and both housewife and working readers were more likely to believe that men are primarily driven by sexual desire. Housewives who read erotic fiction, unlike the younger...
Well, yeah, because you're reading books where it's the woman's fantasy. The woman's fantasy are that men are just wild beasts. When it's not actually true, not entirely.
College sample were also more willing to attribute at least some responsibility for sexual assault to women. All participants generally enjoyed best-selling fiction and self-help books, but readers of erotic romance showed a clear preference for fiction over nonfiction. These two studies found many of the same things. Both younger and older readers tended to describe themselves as politically progressive while expressing sexual fantasies that many would regard as deeply non-progressive. Younger readers were more interested in fantasies involving sexual assault, while also being less willing to blame victims. Older readers, despite holding similar political views, were more willing than non-readers to assign women partial responsibility for sex. 40 years later, that same paradox remains. Women who consume erotic fiction continue to describe themselves as holding feminist and progressive values, yet many of the stories they enthusiastically endorse with their time and money revolve around dominant billionaires, dangerous men, unequal power dynamics, and sexual submission. Compared with non-readers, they also appear more likely to report fantasies that sit rather awkwardly alongside their ideological values. Whether this reflects hypocrisy or simply demonstrates that political beliefs and sexual fantasy operate according to entirely different psychological diktats is a question that we'll return to later. For now, one conclusion is difficult to escape. Women's stated preferences and their revealed preferences do not always point in the same direction. What is beyond dispute, however, is the extraordinary success of this genre, which brings us to the obvious next question. What is it
Everything's can be this summarized down pretty simply to what we said before, that a woman will never tell you what she's thinking. She will, however, tell you what she's feeling. And that will change depending on the second. That's just it's very different from minute to minute sometimes.
Exactly that women find so attractive about this stuff? The extraordinary success of 50
What she's feeling is that I hate this billionaire man. What she's thinking is this guy's awesome.
Shades of Grey was perhaps the first time that the wider public caught a genuine glimpse into women's erotic fantasies. More recently, the mimetic popularity of...
Could you imagine men doing this? Oh, there's a milking farm, by the way. But could you imagine a bunch of men getting together and like having like a big convention or like a fan gathering over some sort of porn star or something that like usually those kind of guys are considered losers and stuff, right? It's kind of it's what's interesting. Like imagine like going to a fan meetup of like some porn star or some OnlyFans girl. Like you'd be like you as a guy would be instantly seen as a loser, and you have to be pretty shameless to go there, right? But it's just easy for women to do. Like, oh yeah, we're all fans of this book. It's just a normal book. Like, don't ask any questions or paying any attention. It's just a normal book. Right? It's a normal, regular book that's totally not horrific, violent pornography.
More recently, the mimetic popularity of books such as Morning Glory Milking Farm, together with discussions...
You can't even hide that one. You can't even hide the fact that oh yeah, it's just a regular story. It's not like those other ones they showed us where they had normal titles, normal looking covers. That one is just blatantly just the milking farm, where she's just, milking bulls. Bullish minotaurs.
Sparked by Second Story's widely viewed YouTube essay, The Absolute Degeneracy of Modern Writing, suggests that people remain both fascinated and thoroughly bewildered by the subject. And part of that mystery lies in how these books are marketed. A casual glance at almost any Rebecca Yarros novel gives little indication that its contents are sexually explicit. The covers of the 50 Shades trilogy are similarly restrained, featuring little more than a necktie, a masquerade mask, and a pair of handcuffs. While some romance novels still feature the traditional shirtless, muscular hero, today's biggest bestsellers usually don't advertise themselves as erotica at all. They quietly disappear into the surrounding shelves of fantasy and contemporary fiction. Women's, it seems, is remarkably good at hiding in plain sight. So, what is it that women actually find appealing in these books? And more importantly, how does that differ from the kinds of typically preferred by men? A 2016 study by Diana Coker surveyed 217 readers of 50 Shades of Grey, 23 of whom were men. Given that 13 respondents identified as bisexual or homosexual, it's a fairly safe assumption that at least half of these men were gay, but overwhelmingly, these readers were women. And the results quickly dispel any notion that these novels became a cultural phenomenon for their literary finesse. When asked what they liked most about 50 Shades, 35.5%, the most common response, chose the book's sexual content. Christian Grey himself came in a distant second at 18.9%, followed closely by the story at 17%. Just 10.6% selected its taboo elements, 4.6% its sadomasochistic themes, and a mere 3.2% thought that Anastasia, the novel's protagonist, was its greatest strength. Overall, 70% of respondents rated the book positively, while 19% disliked it, a useful reminder that this sample wasn't exclusively composed of enthusiastic female fans. Interestingly, the single most common criticism had nothing to do with the sex. 21% complained about the writing itself, specifically its simplistic language and limited vocabulary. The second most common response was, quite simply, nothing.
I do not want to comment.
Why? Suggesting that elegant prose was probably not the thing carrying this particular bestseller. Nor was its heroine. 10% identified Anastasia as the weakest part of the novel. Only 6% criticized its treatment of women, while fewer still, just 4.6% considered Christian Grey's behavior to be the book's greatest flaw.
And see, yeah, because that women are there for a dominant man. They don't really care about how moral he is. I mean, if he's a good guy, it's kind of a bonus, but it doesn't have to be. Helen Berger says, I read some excerpts from 50 Shades of Grey to see what the hype was about. The quality of the writing was atrocious, even by fanfic standard. Right? Well, the thing is, 50 Shades of Grey was a fanfic of Twilight, and then it became its own thing. So that makes sense.
Women who enjoyed 50 Shades tended to score higher on measures of femininity, but enjoyment showed no relationship with preferences for sexual dominance. Instead, the strongest association was with lower emotional satisfaction in their romantic relationships, but not lower sexual satisfaction. In other words, these women did not appear to be sexually deprived so much as emotionally dissatisfied. Compared to those who had only read the 50 Shades trilogy, habitual readers of erotica reported significantly lower emotional satisfaction while showing no difference in physical satisfaction or perceived personal control. Unsurprisingly, they also just enjoyed 50 Shades considerably more. There's 3 conclusions we can reach from this research. First, despite the book's public reputation, readers were not primarily attracted to its BDSM themes. Fewer than 5% identified sadomasochism as the aspect that they liked the most. Second, literary quality wasn't the attraction either.
The Spaceship Vampire says, oh, what the hell? While we're on the subject, certain YouTube personalities like Mauler, Zara Wolf, Doomcock, and even you, Literature Devil, are also inspirations for the Spaceship Vampire name. Well, that's pretty cool. I'm rarely ever included anything. Very nice. Very cool. Spaceship Vampire. Very, very cool.
If anything, it was one of the book's biggest weaknesses. And finally, the strongest relationship was not with sexual dissatisfaction, but with emotional dissatisfaction. These findings suggest that women may be seeking something more than the immediate goal typically associated with. So if BDSM wasn't the appeal, then what was it? Mass and colleagues tackled that question in 2023 by surveying more than 200 women who had intentionally consumed some form of during the previous year. Using statistical clustering techniques, they identified 4 broad preference categories. The largest, comprising 39% of participants, consumed a wide, heterogeneous variety of material. Another 27% preferred what the researchers termed as traditionally feminine content, consisting largely of romance and more conventional depictions of female sexuality. Another 23% primarily preferred material centered on female pleasure, while the smallest group, just 11%, preferred rough or violent content. Once again, rough and violent material proved the least common preference, echoing Coker's findings. Despite 50 Shades of Grey becoming synonymous with BDSM, relatively few women appear to regard those themes as the principal attraction. The researchers also compared these groups psychologically and found that women in the heterogeneous group reported more varied sexual experiences. Those in the traditionally feminine group were more likely to report lower sexual self-esteem and a greater willingness to believe that women sometimes bear responsibility for sexual assault. Women in the rough and violent group likewise reported lower sexual self-esteem and more varied sexual experiences, but were also significantly more likely to report previous sexual abuse. That is, the women most attracted to romance-centered material were also most willing to endorse at least some degree of victim blaming, while women with histories of sexual abuse were disproportionately represented among those preferring rough or violent content. Before reading too much into the relative sizes of these groups, however, it is worth looking at how these participants were recruited. Mass and colleagues weren't trying to survey a representative sample of women. They wanted specifically women who had intentionally consumed. So they recruited from Facebook groups devoted to sexuality, Reddit communities such as r/, and posts shared by sex researchers on.
We caught on to this a long time ago, right? Where every single time we have to engage or see some of these feminist types speak, it's always very clear that they are porn brained. I mean, now we see why. And say, Middleton says, "Daw, don't sell yourself short. It wasn't. If it wasn't for you, I would have never started writing seriously." Well, that's good. I'm glad to hear that. That's pretty good. And I do know you're working really hard on 2 government girlfriends, which sounds pretty cool. Very cool.
On Twitter. Even so, only 206 women ultimately qualified from an initial pool approaching 1,000. It's entirely possible that many participants were excluded for reasons unrelated to. But if they were all excluded for the same reason, then potentially fewer than a quarter of women active in sex-focused online communities reported consuming during the previous year. And that seems unlikely. Given the commercial success of 50 Shades of Grey, Rebecca Yarros, and the countless other best-selling erotic novels, women who consume sexually explicit material surely can't be this hard to find. Unless, of course, the researchers were asking the wrong questions, because even they can't agree on what is. Like Justice Potter Stewart, many of us are tempted to...
What, like how they can't agree on what a woman is? Suddenly when it comes to women, it's like, when it comes to men, everyone knows what pornography is. When it comes to women, on the other hand, suddenly it becomes a big, dynamic, dramatic, complex question.
To say, I know it when I see it, but written is, by definition, harder to see. If you ask someone, have you consumed during the past year? A woman who has read every Rebecca Yarros novel, follows book talk religiously, and owns enough spicy fantasy novels to build a throne out of them, may respond simply, no. Because she genuinely doesn't think that those books count as... And if true, this has major implications for this entire field of research. Before we can ask what women consume, we have to first decide what we even mean by porn. And unfortunately, that problem isn't confined to survey participants. Researchers can't seem to agree either. A systematic review by Ashton McDonald and Kirkman from 2018 examined 22 studies of women's experiences with porn and found remarkably little consistency in how the term was defined. Several studies didn't define pornography at all, simply allowing participants to decide for themselves. McKee and colleagues reached the same conclusions a year later. Surveying 38 leading pornography researchers, they found that not a single pair produced identical definitions. More than 3/4 included the word explicit, just over half referred to an intention to arouse, and fewer than half included both. Some argued that the creator's intention mattered, others rejected that entirely. Several didn't define as a thing at all, and instead described it as a social process, an argument, or even a kind of contract between producers and audiences. If the people who have spent their entire careers studying can't agree on what it is, expecting ordinary survey respondents to share a common definition seems optimistic. One solution is to simply stop asking people to define porn and instead ask them what they actually do with it. And that's what Chadwick and colleagues did in 2018. They conducted 13 semi-structured focus groups, each lasting around 2 hours, involving 72 women of different ages and sexual orientations. Unlike Mass and colleagues, they recruited broadly through Craigslist, university mailing lists, and posters around the University of Michigan. 3 themes emerged from these discussions. The first was risk. Women frequently described searching for sexual material as something requiring careful navigation. The wrong content could be psychologically upsetting, physically arousing in unwanted ways, or simply unpleasant. Participants in 12 of the 13 groups described actively avoiding material that they considered exploitative, inauthentic, unfriendly towards women or LGBTQ people, dismissive of performers' welfare, or likely to encourage unrealistic expectations or comparisons between bodies and relationships. The second theme was curation. Rather than consuming whatever happened to appear on the screen, women described deliberately editing their experiences. Some restricted themselves to websites that they trusted, while others, despite identifying as heterosexual, preferred male, homosexual content because it reduced opportunities to compare themselves with female performers. One participant preferred animation because she said it felt more real, while another preferred amateur productions because she felt that they had more verisimilitude. Others intentionally sought out exaggerated or even comedic material simply to...
That's interesting because we talked about that here too, right? Where it was like authenticity. Like more, if it's more polished, it feels less authentic. And the amateurish productions, I guess, would feel more real, more human.
To avoid becoming emotionally invested. The final theme concerned the medium itself. Women consumed both written and visual material, but many described actively modifying it as they went. Readers skipped passages that they disliked. Viewers fast-forwarded through scenes they found unappealing. One participant described written erotica as inherently more female-friendly, while another preferred novels because they allowed her imagination to quietly rewrite parts of the story that she didn't enjoy. Others argued that videos were easier to skim than books and thus preferred them. Several women reported listening to pornographic videos while deliberately looking away from the screen. If so, then perhaps visual stimulation isn't the main attraction at all. Instead, many women appear to use explicit material not as a finished product, but as raw material for their own imagination, mentally deleting the parts that they dislike while filling in the gaps with their own personal preferences, their own bodies, and their unique personalities. That also would explain many criticisms frequently leveled at romance heroines such as Bella Swan and Anastasia Steele. Critics have often described these characters as not just bland, but as blank slates or empty vessels, and perhaps that's the point. They possess remarkably few distinct characteristics that prevent readers from mentally stepping into the role. A protagonist with very little personality may not be a flaw in the writing, she may simply be easier to insert yourself into.
Phrasing?
While focus groups tell us how women think about sexual material, they can't tell us what is typical. Quantitative work in this area remains surprisingly scarce, but Woodard and colleagues attempted to address that problem in...
And see, Richard Gravel says it must not. I read it because the woman I was seeing at the time said it and said I needed to read it. When I told it bored me, it was horribly written. She was shocked. This is the same thing that happened. By the way, this happened to Frasier. It's the episode where Frasier learns that one of his friends from Cheers actually made an erotic novel, and he used the story that Frasier told him about his own sexual experience. Like, wait a minute, this is my story. But but of course he made it purple prose and everything. And it sucks, obviously. But all the women, including Roz Doyle, is in love with this book, and they all just fawn over him and everything. And even Roz is like, "Oh, you have to read." It's like, tell me, let's read one paragraph and tell me you're not hooked. And because Frasier's, of course, is a guy, it's like sucks. Yeah, and Roz is like shocked that he doesn't like the book like right away. But yeah, it's kind of what happens. Like they like, oh, this is what a fantastically written story, and sucks, but has a lot of like emotional crap in it, so they love it.
2008. Their study involved 21 women between the ages of 18 and 57. Participants viewed clips drawn from a library of 90 scenes, spanning 18 categories, rating both their physical and mental appeal. I will spare you a complete recitation of these categories, but suffice it to say it ranged from hands-on teamwork to ensemble productions, as you can see on screen. At the group level, physical and mental arousal were not significantly correlated across scenes. At the individual level, however, they were positively correlated. Women differed substantially in what they found appealing, but...
And see, it was Thomas J. Fallow. That's the guy who wrote it. In the show.
Once an individual woman found some scene mentally engaging, she was also more likely to find it physically arousing. Further, the scenes rated highest on both dimensions were remarkably ordinary. Most involved what I shall politely call conventional entry, 83.3%, traditional pairings, 77.8%, and outdoor settings, 55.6%. Other reoccurring features included the default configuration, 33.3%, gravity-assisted conventional entry, 27.8%, the traditional standing behind configuration.
Well, they got everything, huh? They got everything. They got all the things that they need from this particular discussion, haven't they? As Big Marcus says, because I get to insert answers and thoughts. And see, Bishop Vampire says, okay, technically, I understand the idea of the blank slate protagonist concept, but I still feel like playing a character like Ness in Earthbound still gives you a sense that he's a something. Yeah. I mean, there is a difference between like a main character that is a blank slate versus a main character that has still a character, and I think this really is probably the greatest of contentions in video games. Like, what do you do? Like, because player agency is a very powerful thing. It's a very important element in this stuff. So the idea here would be that what kind of game are you making? Do you really want to have player agency, or do you want to give the player like a character with personality? Because both could possibly work, but you have to know that if the player is given a character with a personality and a name and all that stuff, then it's going to be less about their own personal customized character and more about the player playing this character instead of the player playing the character that they have made. It's a very different. And it kind of works if you're making like a Baldur's Gate 3 D&D style scenario where you get to make your own character. It fits there. But if you're kind of going through an epic or a saga about like that's telling a really epic, awesome story about a guy, then you kind of want to give the players a guy to play, like in Ghost of Tsushima. Like you're very much playing that character. Very much so. He's not a customizable guy, but it's still fun because of the story is so focused on him as a character, as who he is, his station, his background, his personality, his conflict between honor and the idea of fighting the Mongols no matter what. Things like that. It's pretty cool stuff. So it is a very interesting dilemma. It's a genuinely courageous person, but also that he's he has certain fears to overcome, and that he's still maturing and whatnot. After all, he gets homesick now, and he needs a reassurance from that, from his mom that he's doing the right thing. See, that's kind of what you miss out on things like Baldur's Gate 3, where you're not playing an actual character, you're playing like a customized guy. When you're playing like something like Gale or Shadowheart, it becomes a little more interesting because they are characters that you happen to be playing. They have established personalities, backgrounds, and fears, especially people like Shadowheart. So it does become more interesting. The thing is that with Baldur's Gate 3, you get both options. You can play a fully customizable character, or you could play an established character like Gale, or what's the other one? What's the other character? The tiefling that everyone loves, Karlak. You play all these characters, right? So, and they come with their own wants and needs and fears. Now, your main character does not have to come with fear because he's not really a fully developed character. He's just your stand-in avatar. But yeah, if you do that, you kind of do miss out on things like overcoming fears and flaws, things like that.
22.2% and 5.6% both diverse casts and cunning linguists. I am fundamentally incapable of discussing this seriously, so please bear with me and consult the table on screen if my terminology proves ambiguous.
So they really like outdoor settings, missionary, male on female positions, and of course, what was it? Hold on. Vaginal intercourse. That's the main one. That's the preferable one. Vaginal intercourse, and then way down here on the lower end is female on male positions, and pair entry vaginal non-Caucasian actors. Non-Caucasian actors way down here. Like it's a preference, but it's very low on the scale here. And then they want to get to the action right away, apparently. But anyway, chat, I think it's enough. We went over halfway on that video, so I think it's pretty good. And see, LD, I had a whole chat thread with Jim and I about Warhammer Romantasy, the Emperor's Mercy. That's pretty funny. The Emperor has mercy. The Emperor protects, after all. The Emperor always protects, including bringing protection. Anyway, chat. All right, so we're going to end the stream here and now. Thank you much, everyone, for joining me today. Thank you, Best Chat, for always being Best Chat. Thank you very much, everyone, especially Alchemic 80s and Alex Halo, and all of you donated to today's stream. Thank you very much appreciated. I see you all again, of course, next time. And we're going to end, by the way, with Pillarman. So raise your volume or lower your volume, whatever you prefer. Loud clip incoming, and Pillarman in 5, 4, 3, 2.
Ay, 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 ay.